Chapter 169, A drop of cold sweat, mixed with blood, dripped down from Du Chang's glabella. Yi Qingtang could subdue him without making any noise, and with such skills, none of the junior brothers that he brought along was her opponent. At this point, Du Chang's heart was flustered as though millions of horses were galloping across. When did the outer sect of Xianling sect produce such an evildoer? Looking at her face, she was at most 15. But her skills. Put down your weapons. Du Chang took a deep breath and could only comply under Yi Qingtang's threats. The Qinglin sect disciples who were initially still stunned suddenly heard Du Chang. They were shocked at first, and after hesitating for a long time, they slowly pulled a distance away from the Xianling sect people and threw their swords down unwillingly. A loud clanking was heard, and all the swords dropped on the floor. Senior brother Gu, please let all the senior brothers retreat over here, Yi Qingtang said to Gu Yanqiu, who was behind her. Gu Yanqiu suddenly returned to his senses. The shock he felt was no less than any of those felt by the Qinglin sect people. He previously knew that Yi Qingtang was rather skilled, but he did not expect that this little junior sister's skills were this amazing. When Gu Yanqiu exchanged blows with Du Chang just now, Gu Yanqiu already had an idea of Du Chang's abilities, and even if Gu Yanqiu were in tip-top condition, it would still be impossible for him to win against Du Chang within 100 moves. Yet, unexpectedly, under Yi Qingtang's hands, Du Chang could not even make it through 2 moves. Junior brother Meng, you all come here first. Gu Yanqiu knew that this was not the time to be shocked. If not for Yi Qingtang's timely appearance, even if the 9 of them did not all die in the hands of Du Chang and the rest, they would still have lost a few people. The Xianling sect disciples immediately walked and stood behind Yi Qingtang. You can let me off now, Du Chang said while putting on a composed look. Yi Qingtang laughed as she raised another hand and slapped Du Chang's pale face. Let you off? You hit my senior brother Qin just now. Who should I find to settle this score then? Du Chang was alarmed, and before he returned to his senses, Yi Qingtang suddenly took out a dagger hung from her waist and slit Du Chang's wrists, breaking his tendons in a flash. A miserable cry escaped Du Chang's mouth. The extreme pain from his hands caused his legs to lose strength, and he fell on his knees with a loud wail. That sound was so shrill, and even the Xianling sect disciples had goosebumps from hearing it. More than that, an unknown fear of this little junior sister who had been very quiet throughout the journey was formed. Qin Huan was dumbfounded as well. He did not expect that Yi Qingtang would actually seek revenge for him. Qinglin sect was renowned for their swordplay. Yi Qingtang broke Du Chang's hand tendon like that, and even if Du Chang found a way to recover in the future, his hands would not be as nimble as before. Those few Qinglin sect disciples wanted to go up when they saw that Du Chang was injured. However, Yi Qingtang suddenly grabbed Du Chang's hair to make him face upwards and held the hidden blade in the other hand against Du Chang's neck. Go ahead. If you all take one step further, I will send your beloved senior brother to the netherworld, Yi Qingtang said smilingly. A bewitching smile bloomed on her exquisite face, but it only made everyone present feel an invisible murderous atmosphere. The Qinglin sect disciples did not dare to move anymore. Du Chang was still in Yi Qingtang's hands, and they simply did not dare to resist at all. It should be known that Du Chang had a rather high position in Qinglin sect's outer sect, and if something happened to him before their eyes, they would not be able to explain to the sect. Chapter 170, Yi Qingtang looked at Qinglin sect's cowardice in satisfaction. Even if no one mentioned it, she could guess from their reactions that the idiot she caught in her hands had some high-up position in Qinglin sect. However, so what? Today, he is the meat, and I am the butcher. What bullshit Qinglin sect? Your junior brothers are pretty nice to you, Yi Qingtang said with a seeming smile as she looked down at Du Chang, who was drenched in cold sweat from the pain. Du Chang had a face full of blood, and his body could not stop trembling due to the pain. A deep sense of hatred filled his eyes as he glared at Yi Qingtang. Looks like you're not willing to submit. But don't worry, I will not kill you. Yi Qingtang's lips curled up slightly, and she suddenly released Du Chang's hair that she grabbed in her hands. Then, she took out a bottle of elixir from her space ring. Opening the bottle with one hand and using 2 fingers from the other to tug on Du Chang's lower jaw, she dislocated his jaw and poured an entire bottle of elixir directly into his mouth. Yi Qingtang poured a full bottle of elixir cleanly. Raising her leg, she kicked Du Chang's chest and forced him to swallow down a mouthful of elixir. After Du Chang was kicked on the chest by Yi Qingtang, the tendons on both his hands were broken, and his jaw was dislocated. As such, he was in so much pain that his body convulsed immediately. Looking at Du Chang's misery, Yi Qingtang raised another leg and kicked him away directly. The Qinglin sect disciples instantly rushed forward and held the bruised Du Chang up. A few of them wanted to find Yi Qingtang to settle the score. However, the elixir I fed him just now was the destructive heart pill, Yi Qingtang said carelessly when she saw that the Qinglin sect disciples had dashed up to a few steps away from her. In an instant, the disciples froze on the ground. He swallowed down such a huge amount of it. If you all still don't think of a way, I guarantee that he will be at most a dimwit for the rest of his life from tomorrow onwards. Yi Qingtang smiled brightly. The destructive heart pill was a poison that crept people. Although it would not take one's life immediately, it could destroy their mind. No matter how smart someone was, the person would still become dumb, and all his martial skills and talent would be rendered useless by the pill. The Qinglin sect disciples felt a chill rising from their feet and enveloping their entire body. That was an entire bottle of destructive heart pill. With just a short delay, Du Chang would really end up worse than dead. The Qinglin sect disciples who initially wanted to fight their reputation back completely dropped the idea at this moment and helped Du Chang up frantically. With an angry glare at the Xianling sect disciples, they fled in a flurry. Watching the back view of the Qinglin sect disciples fleeing, Gu Yanqiu and the rest finally heaved a huge sigh of relief. A close shave. Really a close shave. Junior sister Yi, it is really lucky that you're here this time, Gu Yanqiu said sincerely with a sigh. He had never felt that he would be this lucky to recruit someone into the team. At this instant, the other Xianling sect disciples completely put down all their prejudice against Yi Qingtang. What red spirit root or not? They personally saw Yi Qingtang's abilities and were utterly convinced. They were extremely glad that Qin Huan made Yi Qingtang remain in the team. Otherwise, not only would they lose the result of their labor today, but they would also be the ones to suffer humiliation. Meng Sheng panted lightly from a side, and he could not help but feel a deep sense of shame. The moment he thought of the many suspicions he had of Yi Qingtang previously, he wished he could give himself 2 huge slaps. Chapter 171. It could be said that Meng Sheng completely experienced what having eyes but failing to see meant. Junior sister Yi, I'm sorry. I was rude previously. You can punish me. It is all my fault for being ignorant and narrow-minded. Meng Sheng took a step forward, bowed, and apologized to Yi Qingtang with heartfelt admiration. Gu Yanqiu secretly smiled. Meng Sheng was perhaps strict, but he had a good nature. Otherwise, Gu Yanqiu would not keep cooperating with Meng Sheng. Yi Qingtang looked at Meng Sheng's earnest apology and immediately waved a hand. Senior brother Meng, why are you like this? We are all disciples of the same sect. There is no need to treat each other as strangers. A generous reply could resolve any possibly existing feuds. Yi Qingtang was like this as well, clearly distinguishing kindness and hatred. Senior brother Qin, how is your condition? Yi Qingtang was not too bothered with these and was more concerned about Qin Huan's injuries. Qin Huan was already helped to sit at a side by Gu Yanqiu. There was quite a large amount of the giant lizard's poison stained on his chest, and his arm reduced in size. His face was slightly pale, but it did not seem like there was any fatal injury. Still all right. It's just that my arm is in a little pain from the burn. Qin Huan laughed bitterly. Gu Yanqiu removed Qin Huan's clothes to check his chest injury but was a little confused when he took a look. A mouthful of poison was spat on Qin Huan's chest by the giant lizard at that time. The power of a level 6 giant lizard poison was very scary, and if first aid was not done immediately, the person's bones would be corroded completely. Moreover, they were disturbed by Qinglin's sect just now and missed the best timing. Gu Yanqiu originally thought that Qin Huan's injury would definitely be extremely serious. However, he did not expect that. After removing Qin Huan's clothes, Qin Huan's chest was perfectly fine, and not a single piece of skin was burnt. Rather, it was the area on his arm which was stained by the poison that burnt a small hole. This, Gu Yanqiu was a little speechless. This was completely different from what he imagined. Meng Sheng and the rest were confused as well. The level 6 giant lizard spat such a huge mouthful of poison on Qin Huan's chest, but he was actually in perfect condition. Even if Qin Huan was made of steel, he would still not be able to stop the corrosion from the poison. I told you I'm fine. Qin Huan patted his firm chest and found it strange as well. His gaze uncontrollably fell on the fire-resistant soft armor that Gu Yanqiu removed. The fire-resistant soft armor was not damaged at all. Although the poison burnt his outer clothes, it was completely blocked away by this piece of soft armor and, thus, did not injure him. Junior Sister Yi, this soft armor. Qin Huan suddenly returned to his senses with shock written all over his face. Junior Sister Yi, you saved my life this time. Qin Huan was not a fool. He knew that the level 6 giant lizard's poison was extremely deadly and was aware that he could escape this tragedy all thanks to the fire-resistant soft armor that Yi Qingtang ordered him to wear. Previously, Qin Huan only thought that this soft armor could block the heat and never expected that it could actually withstand the poison from a level 6 giant lizard. Yi Qingtang chuckled at Qin Huan, who was brimming with energy once again. Without saying much, she took an antidote and stuffed it into his mouth. Although the fire-resistant soft armor could block away most of the poison, Qin Huan's arm was still injured, and he would need to stay bedridden if he did not take any antidote. Everyone was curious about how Qin Huan escaped death. Qin Huan was not corny and told them about the fire-resistant soft armor that Yi Qingtang gave him. Gasps filled the air instantly. Chapter 172. As Gu Yanqiu watched Qin Huan's happy and bright face, he did not know whether to laugh or cry, and he felt a sense of regret. Yi Qingtang gave Qin Huan this fire-resistant soft armor most likely because Qin Huan defended her previously. Rather, it was Gu Yanqiu who had too many concerns and hesitated. Otherwise, he might have had a share of the armor too. This little junior sister really distinguished between kindness and hatred clearly. Qin Huan's character was also a blessing in disguise. Yi Qingtang's actions changed the opinions of the 9 people who were all guilty of looking down on her previously. These disciples were not bad by nature. Although they somewhat thought of themselves highly, they were still able to distinguish between good and bad. After treating Qin Huan's injury, Gu Yanqiu led some to remove the giant lizard's poison gall and carefully kept it. This poison gall symbolized the completion of this mission, and if it were lost, the group of them would have wasted their efforts. Junior Sister Yi, where did you get that destructive heart pill from? Spare me some. Qin Huan's arm was bandaged as he snacked on some food with a cheeky grin. What destructive heart pill? Yi Qingtang tilted her head a little. Qin Huan replied, that elixir that you forced down on that Qinglin sect fella. Yi Qingtang was a little surprised and immediately burst out laughing. I lied to them. What? Qin Huan was a little confused. The destructive heart pill is so expensive, how would I have it? And even if I have it, why would I be willing to feed him a bottle? The elixir I forced down on him was the bottle of antidote that you gave me the other time. Then, Yi Qingtang stuffed the empty bottle into Qin Huan's hand. Qin Huan's jaw dropped to the floor while Meng Sheng and the rest had an unbelievable look on their faces. You didn't feed him the destructive heart pill? You're not scared of them finding out? Qin Huan's had a mixed expression. Given Qinglin's sect's situation just now, Qinglin's sect was still a huge threat to them even without Du Chang, yet Yi Qingtang actually used an antidote to pass off as the destructive heart pill and bluffed them away? How bold she was! Yi Qingtang shrugged casually. Regardless of whether the destructive heart pill was real or not, they still do not dare to take any chances. If it was fake, then that's it, but if it was real, do you think they won't be scared? Qinglin's sect did not dare to joke around with Du Chang's life, and even if they had their suspicions, they could only leave obediently. After hearing her words, everyone could not help but admire Yi Qingtang. Do not look at how young this little junior sister was, she was brave and astute and could get people into a fix without any means of escape. When Qinglin's sect finally realized what that elixir was and wanted to return to seek revenge, it would be too late, and they could only swallow down their loss. Everyone was overcome with emotions but made a mental warning. In the future, they must definitely not offend this little junior sister who was as beautiful as a flower. Otherwise, the taste of this flower-like poison, they could not bear it. Junior sister Yi, you're really smart. I didn't have time to ask you this previously, didn't you go to direct those small giant lizards away? Why did you suddenly return? I don't see them following back either. Gu Yanqiu wiped off the giant lizard's blood on his hand and handed her a small bottle of the giant lizard's poison that Yi Qingtang wanted him to obtain. He was unclear what Yi Qingtang want the giant lizard's poison for. Yi Qingtang replied, I don't know where they went either. When I saw the Qinglin sect people just now, I wanted to come back and inform you all, thus, I decided to direct those little giant lizards to somewhere farther and then return. But as I directed halfway, those small giant lizards suddenly dispersed. I originally thought they would return here, but now it seems that they ran off to somewhere else. Chapter 173, There's Such a Thing. Gu Yanqiu thought it was rather strange. Everyone did not think too much about it and took a break before they rushed back to the sect. This mission was completed very quickly and saved them 1 to 2 days at least, which was all thanks to Yi Qingtang. After Gu Yanqiu's question, Yi Qingtang felt that something was a little off as well. It was abnormal for those giant lizards to disperse for no reason. Just as Yi Qingtang was thinking, a crumbling sound suddenly rang. Then, all the animals hidden between the gaps of the molten rocks suddenly escaped in all directions. Such a large, dense swarm of creatures almost gave everyone a scare. Are these animals crazy? Why are all of them acting like they're escaping for their lives? Qin Huan stared at a tiny snake slithering past his legs, and his body could not help but shiver. Yi Qingtang found it increasingly strange, and what made her even more uneasy was that the little lightning dragon in her arms moved around restlessly as though it sensed a threat. Could it be that this level 6 giant lizard is the king of this place? Now that it's dead, this group of followers wants to disperse. Another disciple cracked a joke laughingly. Yi Qingtang frowned as she did her best to recall any memory regarding the giant rock canyon from her previous life. In her previous life, she had not entered Xianling's sect at this time, much less went on a mission together with Gu Yanqiu. However, Yi Qingtang felt that things were a little off after connecting the incidents that they encountered today. There were 10 people in Gu Yanqiu's team, and all of them were quite skilled. Moreover, Qin Huan and Meng Sheng were about as skilled as Gu Yanqiu. But in her previous life, Yi Qingtang had never heard of Meng Sheng and Qin Huan ever since she entered Xianling's sect. For Qin Huan, it was still easy to explain, if not for her fire-resistant soft armor, that mouthful of poison from the giant lizard would have killed him. Even if they met the Qinglin sect disciples in the previous life, the Qinglin sect disciples would not be so extreme to take the lives of Meng Sheng, and the rest even if the Xianling sect disciples could not defeat those from Qinglin sect. But why was it that in the future, only Gu Yanqiu became famous? The more Yi Qingtang pondered, the more she felt that things were not right. Connecting both her previous and current life, she kept feeling that something must have happened during this journey back to the sect. Otherwise, it could not be so bad that Meng Sheng's and Qin Huan's names were not left behind. As Yi Qingtang was thinking, the ground below her feet trembled, and gravel rolled down along with the ground's tremble, while the surrounding temperature was as though it was raised to the maximum in an instant. This is bad. Yi Qingtang's eyes shook violently. She finally remembered that after entering the sect in her previous life, she had heard that there was once a magma eruption in the giant rock canyon which caused the terrain of the entire giant rock canyon to completely change. Could it be? It was today. Senior brother Gu, let's leave the canyon immediately. Something bad is going to happen in this giant rock canyon. Yi Qingtang said with a serious tone. Gu Yanqiu could not understand. Underneath the giant rock canyon was magma, and occasional trembles were normal, though they were usually not to the extent of something bad happening. However, Yi Qingtang's eyes made him feel that things were not this simple. Everyone, prepare to leave the canyon immediately, Gu Yanqiu ordered instantly in order to ensure that nothing happened. But just when Gu Yanqiu gave his orders, a loud sound suddenly rang from the giant lizard's lair. In the next second, the entire ground shook violently, and a large crack emerged on the crimson ground. Chapter 174. A loud booming sound came out from all areas of the giant rock canyon, and fuming heat waves were spat out from the cracks in the ground. The magma underneath the giant rock canyon is about to erupt. Quick! We need to leave. Gu Yanqiu hurriedly instructed everyone as he saw that the situation was not right. The entire giant rock canyon was like a furnace that could boil over any time. Beneath the cracks in the ground, piping hot lava spurted out everywhere, turning the place into a hell-looking place. Everyone escaped in the shortest time possible. Despite depleting large amounts of energy from the previous two big battles, they still ran forward with all their might to protect their lives. Yi Qingtang was very speedy, and her brain turned quickly. At this instant, she finally understood what exactly happened during this period of time in her previous life. In the previous life, Gu Yanqiu should have brought a team of 10 to the giant rock canyon and met the Qinglin sect people when the level 6 giant lizard was killed. However, Qin Huan did not have Yi Qingtang's fire-resistant soft armor in the previous life, and the poison would most likely take half his life away. The other Xianling sect disciples were definitely not Qinglin sect disciples, and it was without doubt that the poison gall was stolen. Everyone must have been injured from the big battle, and if the magma erupted at that time, it would be difficult for them to escape given their condition. It was very likely that more than half of this group of people died in this eruption, thus, there was no possibility of Yi Qingtang hearing of their names after she entered the sect. The more she thought about it, the more she felt numb. While she calculated every event from her past life, she still missed out some tiny details. The quake became increasingly violent, and every molten rock that they stepped on could crumble any time. Birds flew over their heads and let out a frightened cry. The entire giant rock canyon turned into a mess, and all the demonic beasts which settled down here fled from their lairs and for their lives. Yi Qingtang and the rest originally intended to gather and escape, but the onslaught of the army of demonic beasts caused the 10 people to quickly disperse. The magma rumbled and evaporated all moisture in the air. White mists enveloped the entire giant rock canyon, and no one could clearly see the road in front of them. Yi Qingtang was completely unaware of where she was going to escape to. The only thing she knew was that the magma in the cracks had already erupted out and was gushing out like a huge tide from within 100 meters behind her. Slower demonic beasts were swallowed by the burning magma instantly and completely burnt even though they had a thick and rough skin. Yi Qingtang only felt her scalp numbing. The roars of the surrounding demonic beasts deafened her eardrums. With large effort, she looked through the thick mist and saw a slope at a side of the canyon. She hurriedly dashed towards that direction with large footsteps, jumped onto a huge rock, and somersaulted over. And in the very next second when Yi Qingtang's feet left the ground, magma gushed past her feet and engulfed countless of lives. No matter how mighty a person was, he was not Mother Nature's opponent. Who could prevent a natural disaster from happening? Using the height from the slope, Yi Qingtang fled to a relatively safe area. As she looked down a few meters below her and saw the burning lava streaming down, the heat she felt was so intense as though she was standing in a furnace. Why did the giant rock canyon's magma suddenly erupt? Yi Qingtang frowned deeply. It should be known that this giant rock canyon had been formed for hundreds of years and had always been safe. But what exactly happened today? In her previous life, no one could analyze the reason behind this giant rock canyon tragedy even in the hundreds of years after the incident. Chapter 175, Yi Qingtang panted with lingering fear. Even if it was her, she still had to be extremely cautious when facing all of this. The team of 10 completely dispersed. Even if Yi Qingtang wanted to find the group, there was no such chance to do so in this magma havoc. However, she remembered that the giant rock canyon's natural disaster was over in less than half a day. Gu Yanqiu and the rest's condition was way better than in the previous life as they did not suffer any torture from Qinglin sect. Given their skills, escaping from here was not too difficult. Yi Qingtang checked her own condition and realized that she was still fine other than the few holes that the lava burnt in one of her legs. Despite so, Yi Qingtang still did not dare to move around casually. The giant rock canyon natural disaster was chaos, and many demonic beasts had escaped. No one dared to ascertain that no high-level demonic beasts would appear nearby. If she really encountered them, it would be risky even for her given her current abilities. Yi Qingtang puffed, took out from her space ring an elixir which could reduce her breaths, and consumed it. She cautiously explored her surroundings in search of an escape route. She was still within the giant rock canyon at that time, but that area was of a slightly higher altitude and was relatively safe. The surrounding was mostly huge rocks and lava trees, which were the only vegetation that could survive in high temperatures. While its leaves were a shade of emerald green, each leaf carried flame toxin. Yi Qingtang took each step cautiously. I thought that there were only hideous demonic beasts in this giant rock canyon and did not expect that I would meet such a beauty. Suddenly, a voice rang behind Yi Qingtang. Yi Qingtang turned around instantly and saw a tall, feminine-looking male looking at her direction in a smile. With just a look, Yi Qingtang identified the person before her eyes and was on her fullest alert. The man who appeared behind Yi Qingtang was called Wu Qi. Although he had a gentle and soft appearance which made him seem harmless, this person was a famous villain on the assassination roll. Wu Qi looked young and at most 26, but his real age was more than 70 to 80 years old. He cultivated an evil cultivation technique since young which could absorb one's essence to extend his own life. This cultivation technique was extremely wicked, and Wu Qi found joy in murdering others, thus, he was listed on the assassination roll. The moment Yi Qingtang saw Wu Qi, she only felt her body tremble. No wonder those Qinglin sect people would suddenly appear at the giant rock canyon. They were here because they were chasing after Wu Qi. Little beauty, this giant rock canyon is extremely dangerous, but don't panic. I will protect you, Wu Qi said while looking at Yi Qingtang with a grin. He sensed that there were people secretly tailing him from long ago and got rid of them by some methods. He did not think that he could still see such a little beauty on the way. Judging from your clothes, you should be a Xianling sect disciple, right? It has been so long since I tasted a sect disciple. Wu Qi licked his lips gently, and an evil glint flashed across his eyes. Yi Qingtang's mental alarm went off. Not waiting for Wu Qi to return to his senses, she immediately fled into the lava trees at a side. It was almost impossible for her to deal with Wu Qi given her current abilities, and if she ended up in Wu Qi's hands, she would end up worse than dead. Damned Qinglin sect. If she knew these troubles that they stirred for her, she would have broken Du Chang's feet tendons as well at that time. Chapter 176. Ha, little beauty, you actually still like this kind of chasing game. Wu Qi watched Yi Qingtang escape, and an insidious expression filled her eyes. With a light jump, he chased after her. Villains that could be listed on the assassination roll had unparalleled skills and committed many acts of evil. Although Wu Qi was not in the first 10, his name was still on the roll. Many sects had appointed disciples to encircle and suppress him, but he escaped all of them. Wu Qi was evil and cunning. He loved playing with his prey by cornering them to a dead end and then maltreating them to death. As Yi Qingtang made a dead sprint, her mind never stopped working. Confronting the tough with toughness, she would still not be Wu Qi's opponent even if there were 10 of her. The only thing she could rely on now was the footsteps that Uncle Qin taught her in her past life. However, even she was unsure of how long she could hold on with this. Yi Qingtang's eyes darted around as she noticed her surroundings. Using this patch of lava trees, perhaps, she could hold on for a period of time. But if she did not get rid of Wu Qi, she would eventually be caught. At that instant, Yi Qingtang's mind spun quickly as she recalled the various techniques from her previous life. She could only hate the fact that she just entered the sect and had not cultivated enough. Otherwise, she had plenty of methods to play Wu Qi to death. The distance between Wu Qi and Yi Qingtang narrowed bit by bit. Looking at the figure shuttling through the lava trees like an escaping rabbit, Wu Qi thought of a strange idea. That girl's footsteps looked a little familiar and were rather similar to the 7 stars on moon footstep of the long-disappeared Supreme God. Could it be that this girl had some connections to the Supreme God? But very quickly, Wu Qi dropped this thought. The Supreme God had disappeared for ages, and even when he was world-famous, this girl might not have even been born. If she was really related to the Supreme God, how could she enter other sects so easily? At that thought, Wu Qi dropped this guess and followed Yi Qingtang at a neither slow nor fast pace as though he was playing with prey. The murderous look in his eyes intensified. What was the most suitable way of screwing with such a rare beauty? Was it chopping off her limbs then putting her in a wine cellar as a hostage to accompany him every day, or was it to skin off that beautiful skin and hang it in a room to admire every night? Various extremely cruel techniques to torture one to death flashed across Wu Qi's mind. He already could not wait to see such a beauty be ravaged to death by him. However, just as Wu Qi was thinking of these, Yi Qingtang suddenly disappeared from his vision. Wu Qi immediately rushed to the last spot where Yi Qingtang was at, stopped in his tracks, and narrowed his eyes as he searched the surroundings for her. Just above Wu Qi's head and between the tall lava trees, a rather pale-looking Yi Qingtang silently hid in the branches as she looked at Wu Qi, who suddenly stopped. She was lucky that she consumed the elixir which could hide her breathing before she entered here. Otherwise, Wu Qi would have sensed her even if she hid on this lava tree. At this instant, Yi Qingtang held her breath and did not dare to make any noise at all. She fixed her eyes on Wu Qi's movement, and every cell in her body was on a critically high alert. Under the tree, Wu Qi frowned slightly. He clearly saw Yi Qingtang at this spot just now. How did she disappear for no reason? However, just as Wu Qi could not figure out his questions, an enormous black shadow suddenly appeared in his line of sight. Chapter 177, with just a look, Wu Qi had goosebumps all over. That was a huge black fog, and its moving form made it seem like a black hole. It emitted a creepy aura of the evil, and everywhere it passed turned into a withered patch of yellow, including the sturdy lava trees whose life was engulfed in an instant. What exactly is this thing? Wu Qi could only feel a stronger than ever oppression enveloping him. All his energy seemed to be sucked away by this unknown black fog, and his inner fear made him want to escape this place as soon as possible. However, it was as though his legs grew roots and were so rooted into the ground that there was no way of moving an inch. On the other hand, that enormous black fog neared him at a rapid speed. On the lava tree, Yi Qingtang saw that scary black fog, and she felt a chill running down her spine. What was that? Yi Qingtang was shocked and suddenly remembered that she seemed to have heard of something similar in her previous life. Between heaven and earth, there was a large aura of the evil which could devour the sun and the moon and engulf rivers and oceans. No one could block it, and anyone who saw it would die without a doubt. That aura of the evil did not have a fixed whereabout and would always appear at weird places. Many sects wanted to trace down its location but suffered huge losses, and some sects even ended up being tragically wiped out. Even if Yu Qingtang were to die, she never thought that the aura of the evil that she had never seen in the 300 years of her previous life would actually appear at the giant rock canyon. The appearance of the aura of the evil was an unusual phenomenon, and the reason for the sudden magma eruption in the giant rock canyon was most likely a result of this aura of the evil. The black fog slowly approached where Wu Qi was. Compared to the black fog that was 10 meters away from him, Wu Qi's tall figure appeared tiny. The black fog only brushed past Wu Qi. But even with that 2-meter distance between them, it was as though Wu Qi's body was dragged by a certain powerful force. Black breaths suddenly flowed out from Wu Qi's eyes, ears, nose, and mouth, forming into black strings which became part of that ball of aura of the evil. It was as though Wu Qi's body was completely numbed. He stood at the same spot without moving, and an expression of fear was frozen on his face, seeming to be in utter despair. Yu Qingtang held her breath and watched wide-eyed as Wu Qi's breaths were slowly drawn out from his body by that aura of the evil. The aura of the evil contained all evil auras in the world. For such a villainous person like Wu Qi, the amount of evil breaths in him was enough to form large quantities of the aura of the evil, and these breaths attracted this enormous aura of the evil to suck them all. In just the blink of an eye, Wu Qi, who was still chasing after Yu Qingtang previously, had all his breaths sucked away. His entire body was as pale as paper, and he fell onto the ground just like that while that black fog continued shuttling deeper into the lava trees forest as if it was not affected at all. Finally, after the aura of the evil vanished from her line of sight, Yu Qingtang finally let out a huge breath. She could still run when she met Wu Qi, but if that aura of the evil noticed her, she could only wait for death. Not mentioning the current hurt, even if she cultivated for hundreds of years, there would still not be the slightest chance of surviving it. Yu Qingtang stayed on the tree for a long time, and only after confirming that the aura of the evil would not return again did she jump down from the tree. Chapter 178. The aura of the evil gradually moved farther away. After a distance, it suddenly quivered, and the black fog dissipated bit by bit, leaving behind a silver figure. It was a mighty and majestic silver wolf. Its silver fur all over its body glistened, but some black fog remained between the fur. Its scarlet eyes were as fierce as that of a wild beast. After taking a few steps forward, it fainted and fell on the ground with a heavy thud. On the other side, Yu Qingtang looked at the lifeless Wu Qi beside her legs, and her lips tugged upwards into a smile. Wu Qi would never have dreamt that he would die from this scary force one day. Yu Qingtang touched her chin and took out the dagger on her waist, chopping off Wu Qi's head. This Wu Qi was a person on the assassination roll. Although he was not ranked highly, this head could be exchanged for many Xianming points if brought back to the sect. At that thought, Yu Qingtang really felt that the aura of the evil from just now was a great help to her. However, she did not dare to stay for long as well. God knows when that aura of the evil would appear again. Even Wu Qi did not have any ability to fight back. If it was her, she would only die earlier. Then, Yu Qingtang was unwilling to stay any longer and immediately fled. The lava tree forest turned into a desolate field after the aura of the evil passed through it. The vitality of the lava trees was sucked away, and yellowed leaves fell onto the ground. Just by walking in the place where the aura of the evil had extended, she felt a chill inside her. Before long, Yu Qingtang suddenly saw that there was a figure not far away from her. There was a huge silver wolf with a dangerous black fog lingering around it. Yu Qingtang instinctively wanted to leave, but when she looked at the silver wolf which clenched its teeth in pain, she hesitated. In her previous life, Yu Qingtang once saved a small wolf while she was on the run. At that time, she was alone, and everyone was after her life. She often felt real loneliness, but that small wolf was the only companion by her side during her most difficult times. But ultimately, that small wolf was cruelly killed because it protected her. Up to this day, that bloody scene remained in Yu Qingtang's mind like a disease. Unexpectedly, Yu Qingtang spun on her heels and walked towards that silver wolf. The black fog that hovered around the silver wolf radiated an evil aura and was exactly the same as the black fog on Wuqi's body when he died. This silver wolf was possibly the aura of the evil's target as well, but survived by chance. Looking at the silver wolf, Yi Qingtang's mind could not help but overlap its image with the small wolf that she once raised. After taking a deep breath, she lowered her body and placed her hands on the silver wolf. The heart of the demon god within Yi Qingtang was a weapon which could absorb all the aura of the evil on earth, and the rumored demon god was even able to control all the aura of the evil. As Yi Qingtang's hands were placed against the wolf, the aura of the evil which lingered around the silver wolf was slowly absorbed by the heart of the demon god within her. Upon looking at the majestic silver wolf under Yi Qingtang's hands, the little black ball hidden her body went crazy. Why? Why is he here? Chapter 179. Musu's face was dotted with sweat beads. As he sped forward, his eyes swept across every inch of his surroundings. At this instant, Musu was so anxious that his heart was about to explode. Your Highness, where did you go? You must stay safe at this time. Musu was one of the few people who knew that Han Sangming was the demon god, but exactly because of this, Musu was even more worried. His Highness had lost the heart of the demon god and could not control the aura of the evil within his body at every moment. There was always that one period of time when the aura of the evil in his Highness' body would explode out, and because he could not control the aura, he would turn into an animal all the way until the collective entity of the aura of the evil was dissipated everywhere. Previously, Han Sangming calculated the timing when the aura of the evil would explode, thus, he came to this giant rock canyon which rarely had any people. Yet, unexpectedly, this resulted in the eruption of the magma beneath the giant rock canyon, and it was during this chaos that Musu lost trace of Han Sangming. At this very instant, Musu only thought of finding Han Sangming as soon as possible. The aura of the evil's collective entity would not remain condensed for too long, and when it dissipated, Han Sangming would enter an extremely frail state. Then, he could only remain in an animal form. If anyone else saw this, God knows what would happen. Musu dashed throughout and faintly sensed that the aura of the evil ahead of him was increasingly stronger. But when he reached the place, he was so stunned that he was rooted to the ground as though he was struck by lightning. 10 meters away, an exquisite figure was half-kneeling in front of a huge silver wolf. Her small fair hands were gently placed against the silver wolf's smooth fur, and the aura of the evil lingering around the silver wolf was sucked away by those hands bit by bit. The worried expression on Musu's face dropped at that very moment. Yi Qingtang. Why was she here? Yi Qingtang did not sense Musu's appearance at all as she only focused on absorbing the aura of the evil away from the silver wolf's body using the heart of the demon god. As the aura of the evil was slowly absorbed away, the silver wolf's shiny fur appeared before Yi Qingtang. Yi Qingtang praised herself. Because of that small wolf, she had an unknown love for all wolves, and she could not keep her hands away, especially from that fluffy fur. As such, she had offended many wolves. However, she had never seen such a plump, sturdy, and shiny wolf. It is really so pretty. Yi Qingtang originally decided to leave after saving the wolf, but looking at the tempting wolf before her, greed started to fill her big eyes. This wolf should be a wild wolf, right? It probably did not have an owner. Even if she carried it away, no one would care, right? At this thought, a bold thought rose in her mind. Although she already had a little lightning dragon, it was still small and would not have any combat power in a short while. But this wolf was different. It had such a strong build, and it should have very good combat power if she raised it. Yi Qingtang thought hard of how to bring this ownerless silver wolf away. She narrowed her eyes and looked around her surroundings. After ensuring that there was no one around, she swallowed down a few elixirs which temporarily raised her strength and opened her arms to carry the silver wolf horizontally. Not far away, Musu saw His Highness being carried bridal style by Yi Qingtang and almost fainted right there and then. Chapter 180 His Highness was being carried. And it was even by a girl in bridal style. Musu simply did not dare to believe the scene he witnessed. But just when Musu was shocked that his legs turned into jelly, Yi Qingtang had long carried His Highness and ran away like a wisp of vapor. Musu was violently alarmed as he dashed after her with a broken-down expression. Lady Yi. Put him down. Put His Highness down ASAP. If you like wolves, I can even catch a pack of them for you. But put down His Highness, please. On the other side, Yi Qingtang's annoyance over all sorts of accidents in the giant rock canyon was completely gone because she gained such a precious wolf. She was so happy carrying the sleeping wolf that her feet were as light as feathers. The giant rock canyon's magma eruption gradually stabilized. This time, Yi Qingtang did not encounter any more irritable incidents as she carried the wolf cheerfully and searched for her senior brothers. What Yi Qingtang was unaware of was that halfway through her journey, the wolf's originally tightly shut eyes opened, and a violent, murderous aura rushed out from its eyes as though it wanted to summon an apocalypse. However, in the next second, the silver wolf saw a familiar face and, at the same time, felt a cold air which continuously flowed from her chest area and slowly swallowed the uncontrollable aura of the evil within him. The brutal expression in its eyes disappeared as it fell into a trance in an instant. Yi Qingtang. Don't be scared. I won't abandon you. It heard the girl's ever-gentle comforting words as her soft hands lightly caressed its head, ears. The silver wolf wanted to move but discovered a fact that stunned him. At this moment, he was being carried in the arms of a tiny girl. Perhaps, continue pretending to unconscious, was better. At the entrance of the giant rock canyon, Gu Yanxiu and the rest looked fearfully at the canyon which was swallowed by lava. As they saw the temperature of the magma decreasing and the crimson patch being slowly covered by an ash black, they could not help but regard the power of Mother Nature with reverence. Is everyone here? Gu Yanxiu took a glance at the other disciples. While the eruption was sudden, it was good that Yi Qingtang warned them in time, and they were pretty skilled, so all of them escaped out. Qin Huan looked around, and his expression turned ugly. Junior sister Yi, 9 out of 10 of them had returned, and only Yi Qingtang was missing. At that time, everyone's expressions turned extremely ugly. Junior brother Qin, stay here and keep a lookout. Junior brother Meng and I will search nearby. Junior sister Yi is sharp and intelligent and would probably not have any accidents, Gu Yanxiu said with a frown. Meng Xing nodded immediately. But just when they were ready to leave in search for Yi Qingtang, a worried-looking Qin Huan suddenly saw a figure running towards them at high speed. Junior sister Yi. The worry on his face was frozen the instant he saw Yi Qingtang, and surprise subsequently filled his eyes as he watched Yi Qingtang dashing towards them with a big unknown thing in her hands. Senior brother Qin, all of you are out already. Yi Qingtang obediently stood before her senior brothers while carrying her precious wolf. The group of them who were initially full of worry for Yi Qingtang immediately gathered forward. But just when they noticed that Yi Qingtang not only escaped but also carried such a huge silver wolf in her arms, a look of horror appeared on their faces. Chapter 181, Yi Qingtang had a small frame, but the creature in her arms was so magnificent. The contrast between the two was striking. Junior sister Yi, this wolf, Qin Huan wanted to say something but stopped, and his eyes had a complicated expression. I picked it up on my way back. Yi Qingtang's eyes immediately smiled blissfully once she talked about the wolf. Everyone did not know what to feel. They were chased by the lava throughout and had to run like dogs. But Yi Qingtang was another level. Not only did she escape by herself, she even carried such a huge wolf back. This little junior sister was rather fierce. This wolf seems quite special. I have never seen a silver wolf before, Gu Yanxiu said as he forced himself to stay composed. His junior sister had done many shocking things already. Right. Yi Qingtang's widened her bright eyes, which were filled with pride, and said, I have never seen one before as well. At first, I suspected whether it was a demonic beast but did not see any demonic beast aura on its body. Perhaps, it's a special breed. The certain demon god who pretended to faint, special breed? Qin Huan touched his chin as he sized up that silver wolf. Just seeing Yi Qingtang's spirited look, he already guessed that his junior sister was intending to raise this wolf. Shifting his gaze back to the wolf's blinding fur, Qin Huan also thought that while the wolf was not conscious, it was more majestic the more he looked at it, and, perhaps, this was a good thing. Junior sister Yi, you're really lucky. I see that this wolf is pretty good, Qin Huan said as he reached out to touch the wolf. Suddenly, an undetectable deathly cold air radiated around the silver wolf, and a murderous aura filled the air. But just when Qin Huan stretched out his hand, Yi Qingtang immediately took a step back while carrying the silver wolf and shouted at Qin Huan with a protective look. Mine! The demon god's heart was very complicated. The murderous aura subsequently vanished into thin air. When Qin Huan looked at his hand hanging in the air and then looked at Yi Qingtang's protective stance, his lips could not help but twitch. Okay, yours. I will not snatch with you. Qin Huan dropped his hand helplessly and could not help but quietly think to himself. Why did he not see that his little junior sister had such a childish side to her? It was just a touch, why did she have to be so stingy? She had already given him the exorbitant fire-resistant soft armor but could not even let him touch a single hair of the wolf. Yi Qingtang lifted her chin and hugged the silver wolf more tightly. The image of the little wolf's miserable death from her previous life was still etched in her mind. She instinctively protected the silver wolf in her arms tightly. Qin Huan's mood fell to the bottom since he could not touch the wolf and was even glared at by Yi Qingtang. On the other hand, Gu Yanqiu and the rest were elated at the sight. They felt that this little junior sister was scarily powerful previously and was completely not like her age. But now, she acted a little spoiled like that of a teenage girl. It is not easy to ride a horse while carrying a wolf. Junior brother Meng and I will look for a carriage from the town nearby, Gu Yanqiu said. Thank you, two senior brothers, Yi Qingtang said with a smile. Gu Yanqiu and Meng Sheng were about to leave but felt that something was off suddenly. Their attention was completely attracted by that silver wolf in Yi Qingtang's arms previously, and only now did they notice there was actually a huge cloth bag hung on her waist. Something circular was in that bag, and it was even dripping with blood. Chapter 182, Junior Sister Yi, is this a snack you prepared for this wolf? Qin Huan said and pointed to that bloody cloth bag. Yi Qingtang looked down and burst out laughing. No, this is Wu Qi's head. Everyone's jaw dropped to the ground. Wu Qi. You're not talking about that Wu Qi, on the assassination roll, right? Qin Huan's lips twitched and felt that this news was even more explosive than the wolf. Yi Qingtang nodded obediently. Gasps instantly filled the air. The 9 of them widened their eyes as they looked at the beautiful girl with a scared expression as though they were looking at a monster. They were more or less aware of Wu Qi's abilities. Although he was not the strongest, he was not someone that could be independently killed by an outer sect disciple like them. In the end, not only did Yi Qingtang picked up a silver wolf, she even easily chopped off Wu Qi's head. Everyone's feelings were extremely complicated for a moment. Looking at everyone's expression, Yi Qingtang realized that they might have misunderstood. I met him on the way, but he had some accident and already was dead, so I conveniently cut his head off. It was unwise for Yi Qingtang to mention the aura of the evil. After all, the aura of the evil was too powerful. The less trouble, the better. Hearing Yi Qingtang's words, everyone slowly let out a sigh of relief. A natural disaster hit this giant rock canyon today, and it could be that Yi Qingtang had the opportunity to cut his Wu Qi's head off because he encountered a high-level demonic beast that was escaping. Although she did not kill him independently, there was really nothing to say about her luck. Ahem. We will look for a carriage first, Gu Yanqiu cleared his throat and said. Then, he and Meng Sheng rode the horses that they left outside the canyon previously and headed nearby to look for a carriage. On the other hand, Yi Qingtang and the rest rested outside the canyon. Yi Qingtang sat on a large rock and looked at the silver wolf, which was still in a deep sleep in her arms. She could not help but worry whether the wolf was injured in other areas, thus, she carefully held the wolf's paw and checked carefully. After inspecting, she did not find any other wounds and finally sighed in relief. However, it is so nice to touch, Yi Qingtang became addicted to touching it. Her tiny hands caressed the wolf all over as though they were stuck onto the wolf's body, and she looked extremely blissful. This fur was more comfortable than any of the wolves she touched before. The certain demon god who pretended to faint was completely frozen because someone continuously took advantage of him. Mu Su had chased up since a long time ago, but when he saw that Yi Qingtang met up with a group of Xianling sect disciples, it was inconvenient for him to appear. He could only quietly look at His Highness being carelessly touched all over in Yi Qingtang's arms from a distance away. He felt very complicated. Extremely, extremely complicated. Mu Su pondered if he should find a chance to save His Highness, but thinking from another angle, it was even more suitable for His Highness to remain beside Yi Qingtang given his current condition. After all, the heart of the demon god within Yi Qingtang was the key to controlling the aura of the evil. If His Highness could be near the heart of the demon god, the uncontrolled aura of the evil in his body would be eased. At that thought, Mu Su quietly kept his leg back. The moment Mu Su thought of His Highness' unbearable technique in picking up girls, he instantly felt that letting His Highness follow Yi Qingtang in this form was good as well. Your Highness, you must make use of this opportunity and get along well with Lady Yi. I can only help you up to here. Chapter 183. Just when Mu Su was proud of his wittiness, his face suddenly froze. That is not right. His Highness is in animal form right now, and Lady Yi is completely unaware of His Highness' identity. How are they going to get along? Human beast. Mu Su suddenly sensed that his thoughts were very dangerous and immediately decided to bring His Highness back first. But when Mu Su turned around and was about to turn into a wolf, he saw Gu Yanqiu and Meng Sheng had already brought a carriage over, and Yi Qingtang carried the silver wolf up the carriage. That carriage quickly disappeared right before Mu Su's eyes. Mu Su went crazy. Yi Qingtang sat in the carriage while hugging the wolf, and other senior brothers rode on their hoses on the way back. Meng Sheng was perhaps guilty for suspecting Yi Qingtang and, thus, took on the role of the coachman and even helped Yi Qingtang to hang the bloody bag containing Wu Qi's head outside the carriage. There were some obstacles in this journey, but everyone returned safely. A line of them headed back to Xianling sect in a mighty formation. They only wanted to return to the sect as early as possible, turn in the mission, and exchange for Xianming points to continue in their cultivation. Perhaps the day was too tiring, Yi Qingtang leaned against the silver wolf and fell into a deep sleep throughout the bumpy journey. In the next instant, after Yi Qingtang fell into a deep sleep and her breathing was stable, the wolf suddenly opened its tightly shut eyes and turned his head a little to look at Yi Qingtang, who fell asleep on its body, with a complicated expression. A black fog suddenly floated out of Yi Qingtang's chest and slowly formed into a little black ball. The little black ball shuttled to the front of the silver wolf, and it could not stop moving its round body. Anyone could tell that it was agitated at this very instant. Wow wow wow. Would-be father, you're finally taking action. I still looked down on you previously and did not expect that you would be so amazing this time. The little black ball happily bounced about while looking at the silver wolf. As early as when its mother met the silver wolf, the little black ball already knew that the other party was its would-be father. Who would have thought that would-be father was so witty? He discovered that mother liked wolves and knew how to give her what she liked. This was much more reliable than before. The silver wolf watched the little black ball with cold eyes which were devoid of emotion. However, the little black ball blabbered unhappily as if it completely did not sense the silver wolf's indifference. But I keep thinking that there seems to be something wrong with your appearance. Is that taste for a human beast a little too? Before the little black ball finished its sentence, the silver wolf suddenly launched its paw at the little black ball. The little black ball, which was a conscious being, could only be touched by the demon god, and this paw caused its palm-sized body to knock into all areas in the carriage. In just the blink of an eye, the little black ball, whose head was spinning from the collision, fell in front of the silver wolf. It wanted to float up dizzily but was pressed on the ground with the silver wolf's paw. Boo-hoo, the little black ball wanted to cry. Its would-be father was so violent, and it was impossible for its tiny body to escape from that huge paw. The silver wolf looked at the little black ball coldly and flipped its paw to kill off the little black ball's voice. Then, the silver wolf shifted its eyes, looked at Yi Qingtang sleeping soundly on its body, and quietly continued to pretend to be unconscious in the carriage. While that little black ball, whose state worse off than being dead, was in despair. Boo-hoo-hoo, is it too late to change a father? Chapter 184, The journey back was safe and stable. On the way back, everyone regained their energy, and the condition of the wound on Qin Huan's arm improved. In the blink of an eye, everyone returned to Xianling's sect. Yi Qingtang was very gloomy about one thing though. That silver wolf was in deep sleep throughout the journey and did not show any signs of consciousness. But it did not have a single drop of water over the past few days, which really worried Yi Qingtang. It was not easy to pick up such a handsome wolf, and if it was starved to death, who would she go to cry to? Luckily, although the wolf did not ingest anything, it did not look weary at all, and its fur was as shiny as before. Yi Qingtang then finally sighed as emotions overcame her. Indeed, animals like wolves should still be appropriately fat for them to be able to withstand a drain in energy. When they reached Xianling's sect, Yi Qingtang insisted on personally carrying the silver wolf into the sect. During that period of time, Qin Huan and the rest wanted to help as they saw her short limbs but were all rejected by Yi Qingtang as though she was protecting it from thieves, causing all the senior brothers to feel extremely complicated. This little junior sister's love for wolves was quite strong. When Yi Qingtang returned to her room, Su Wan and Lin Long were not around. She nimbly laid the unconscious silver wolf on her bed and touched its fur without bearing to let go. After I submit the mission, I'll find someone to take a look at you. Wait for me, Yi Qingtang said to the silver wolf very earnestly. The certain someone who continued pretending to be unconscious felt very complicated. Yi Qingtang settled the silver wolf and immediately headed to the rewards pavilion with Wu Qi's head. The team mission with Gu Yanqi's team was to be submitted by Gu Yanqiu, and the obtained Xianming points had to be divided amongst all the participants, while this head that Yi Qingtang had in her hand was all hers. Yi Qingtang walked towards the rewards pavilion in a good mood. She did not have any idea how many Xianming points Wu Qi's head was worth, but according to the assassination roll, the bare minimum amount would not be lower than a 3-digit number. If she could exchange the head for so many Xianming points, Yi Qingtang's subsequent efficiency in cultivation in the sect would really be doubled. Just as Yi Qingtang hummed a song and walked through the outer sect, her agile figure fell into the eyes of someone from not far away. Senior brother Yun, I am still not too familiar with the swordplay that the warden taught yesterday. Can you teach me one more time? Su Wan lifted her exquisitely made-up face and looked at Yun Shu beside her but suddenly realized that Yun Shu's eyes seemed to be attracted by something. She could not help but look up curiously in the direction of Yun Shu's gaze, but this look completely caused the smile on her face to freeze. Was that figure walking past from a distance away not Yi Qingtang, who left the outer sect for half a month? The moment Su Wan saw Yi Qingtang, her heart skipped a beat instinctively. Junior sister Yi is back. Yun Shu could not help but smile as he looked at Yi Qingtang's back view. But in Su Wan's eyes, that thoughtless smile was more disturbing than ever. Ever since Yi Qingtang left the outer sect, Su Wan abandoned all previous reservations and searched for an excuse to find Yun Shu every day. It was as though she completely replaced Yi Qingtang's position as the person around Yun Shu. Yun Shu was good-natured and not good at rejecting people's requests. Su Wan succeeded time over time, and in just half a month's time, rumors about the two of them started to spread within the outer sect. Yun Shu had never put it to heart and tried to explain a few times, but Su Wan told to him to brush it off using the excuse that as long as they had nothing going on between them, it would eventually be proven to others. Little did anyone know that this outcome was exactly what Su Wan wanted. Chapter 185, Su Wan was confident that she could conquer Yun Shu bit by bit, but she never thought that Yi Qingtang would come back so quickly. She originally thought that Yi Qingtang would take at least half a month before returning, but seeing her again now made her furious already. However, Su Wan was very smart to not show this anger on her face and could only hide away all the hatred in her eyes as she followed Yun Shu's gaze. She said gently, "I have not returned to the room today and didn't know that junior sister Yi came back." Then, Su Wan looked at senior brother Yun's handsome side profile and smiled faintly. Senior brother Yun kept worrying about junior sister Yi's safety all this time. Now, it seems that junior sister Yi returned safely, and you don't need to worry anymore. Yun Shu chuckled and shook his head. She is young, so I was a little worried. Now that she returned safely, my heart is naturally at ease. Yun Shu's voice had a hint of laughter, and every word was filled with concern for Yi Qingtang, piercing Su Wan's heart like a silver needle. She secretly clenched her fists that were hidden in her sleeves and tried to maintain the sweet and gentle expression on her face. Senior brother Yun has a good nature and everyone knows it. However, junior sister Yi went on the mission together with other senior brothers. Junior sister Yi was born pretty, and those senior brothers would naturally take more care of her. You worry too much already. Su Wan's neither harsh nor light words had needles hidden in them. Not only did she pick up the fact that Yi Qingtang did not go on the mission with Yun Shu, she even emphasized her beautiful appearance and close interactions with other senior brothers. After Yun Shu heard her, he only gave a brief smile and did not put it to heart. It's good that she's back. If you meet her when you return, do tell her to find me. The warden taught quite a lot of things over the past few days, and I have prepared a set for her. Jealousy and hatred flashed across Su Wan's eyes. Yi Qingtang was not in the outer sect for the past half-month, but Yun Shu actually thought about Yi Qingtang for everything. On what basis? Even though she was clearly the one staying by senior brother Yun's side during this period of time. I got it. I will tell junior sister Yi when I return, Su Wan said as she forcefully suppressed the unwillingness in her heart. Yun Shu nodded and did not say anything more. On the other side, Yi Qingtang reached the rewards pavilion in no time and went up the stairs directly. There were not many people in the rewards pavilion at that time. When Yi Qingtang was handing in the head, she coincidentally met Gu Yanqiu and Qin Huan, who were submitting the mission as well. Junior sister Yi, you're finally willing to leave that precious silver wolf of yours now? Qin Huan could not help but joke with Yi Qingtang when he saw her. Over the past few days, they witnessed how overprotective she was. Yi Qingtang raised her eyebrows and simply did not bother arguing with the likes of him. Gu Yanqiu, who was standing aside, let out a laugh. At the same time, the warden in charge of verifying the mission entered the reward for killing the level 6 giant lizard into Gu Yanqiu's bracelet. In Xianling sect, every disciple had a bracelet which recorded the number of Xianming points they had. Gu Yanqiu looked at the Xianming points on her bracelet and smiled at Yi Qingtang. It's good that you're here, junior sister Yi, you can take your share of Xianming points. Yi Qingtang directly raised her hand with the bracelet without saying anything. Gu Yanqiu immediately transferred Yi Qingtang's 60+ Xianming points onto her bracelet. This is still a small amount. The head in your hand is then the big one, Gu Yanqiu chuckled as he looked at Yi Qingtang. If other new disciples obtained 60 plus Xianming points in their first month, it was already considered a huge amount. But this 60 over points were really nothing compared to Wu Qi's head in Yi Qingtang's hand. Chapter 186, Junior Sister Yi, are you still willing to come with us if there are any missions in the future? At that instant, Gu Yanqiu could not help but invite Yi Qingtang. Other outer sect disciples who came to submit their missions looked over in their direction because of Gu Yanqiu's words. Gu Yanqiu had a good reputation in the outer sect, and his team missions had the highest completion rate. Many disciples wanted to join his team, but Gu Yanqiu was stricter in picking teammates, and it was very difficult for him to look at ordinary disciples. However, Gu Yanqiu sent out a second mission invitation to a new disciple. What was going on? Everyone was sure that she was a new disciple when they took a look at her. They were very surprised as to why Gu Yanqiu would favor her so much. Yi Qingtang pondered for a moment and smiled. I don't intend to take on any more rewarded missions this month. I'll tell senior brother Gu when I feel like taking on any missions. After turning in Wu Qi's head, her Xianming points should last her for a period of time. Increasing her skills in the shortest time possible was then the key. The surrounding disciples could not help but widen their eyes when they saw that Yi Qingtang actually rejected Gu Yanqiu's invitation in public and suspected whether there was anything wrong with their ears. In the outer sect, there were so many people who wanted to go on a team mission with Gu Yanqiu but did not have the opportunity to. But Gu Yanqiu already took the initiative to invite Yi Qingtang, and she actually rejected it straight up without thinking. Was this little junior sister an idiot? Everyone began to look at Yi Qingtang incredulously. Gu Yanqiu was, however, not shocked. He knew that Yi Qingtang was a girl with her own views. All right. Just find me or Qin Huan when you are free. It was already shocking for Gu Yanqiu to be rejected, but after being rejected, Gu Yanqiu was not at all repelled and even spoke so nicely to her. Everyone was a little muddle-headed at that moment. Since when was Gu Yanqiu so nice to talk to? Why had they not seen it before? You can hurry on with whatever you have. I have to distribute the Xianming points to Meng Sheng and the rest. I'll contact you next time. Gu Yanqiu waved a hand to Yi Qingtang and led Qin Huan out of the rewards pavilion. With Gu Yanqiu's departure, everyone stared at Yi Qingtang even more boldly and openly. Although they did know how much the reward for Gu Yanqiu's mission was, rewarded missions that Gu Yanqiu would look at would not be too bad. But Gu Yanqiu said that the reward for this mission was small and that this little junior sister had an even bigger mission in her hands. Everyone's curiosity was piqued uncontrollably as they stretched their necks to look at the cloth bag in Yi Qingtang's hand. I am here to submit a mission. Yi Qingtang was long familiar with the set way of the rewards pavilion as she handed the cloth bag into the warden's hand. That warden looked at Yi Qingtang confusedly. Why did he not remember that this young lady came to take on a mission before? But when the warden untied the bag that Yi Qingtang handed over, expressions of shock suddenly appeared on his face. The warden looked up in surprise. In the rewards pavilion, the only mission that did not need to be taken on in advance was killing a villain on the assassination roll. He had managed the rewards pavilion for many years and clearly remembered all the faces of those villains on the assassination roll since a long time ago. The thing in the opened bag was clearly the head of Wu Qi, a villain on the assassination roll. Chapter 187, The disciples became even more curious after seeing the warden's expression and looked towards that cloth bag. Once they saw the bloody head, they were all dumbfounded. What kind of mission needed her to hand in a head? Other than the assassination roll, they really could not think of anything else. However, looking at the young face of the new disciple, there was no way they would believe that such a new and young girl could behead anyone on the assassination roll. However, did you kill him? The warden's eyes were slightly shocked as he looked at the beautiful girl in front of him. Yi Qingtang beamed. I did not notice how much the reward is for him. I'll have to trouble Senior to give me some guidance. Upon listening to her words, the warden accepted that the head was chopped off by Yi Qingtang. His eyes softened and said after pausing a while, 376 Xianming points. 376. The curious outer sect disciples' jaws dropped upon hearing the warden's words. A head could be exchanged for over 300 Xianming points. Other than a villain on the assassination roll, whose head would be worth so much? Yi Qingtang was very calm though. She knew that Wu Qi's name was not too big, and, thus, it was worth less than other priceless heads on the roll. But over 300 points plus the 60+ points from Gu Yanqiu made a total of over 400 Xianming points, which was already enough for her to spend freely. Please help me exchange for the points then, senior. Yi Qingtang lifted her hand with a smile, and her eyes glistened as she watched huge quantities of Xianming points being slid onto her bracelet. This scene made all the surrounding disciples stare wide-eyed with their mouths open as they suspected if they saw wrongly until they recognized the human head. That head seems to be Wu Qi's. Someone mumbled. And this fell into everyone's ears. In a moment, everyone looked at Yi Qingtang was as though they were looking at a monster. Was this a joke? A new disciple could actually chop off Wu Qi's head? Had they gone crazy or had the world gone crazy? Yi Qingtang did not bother with their reactions. After all the Xianming points reached her hand, she thanked the warden and left the rewards pavilion with a bright smile. The warden looked at that head placed on the table with complicated feelings. After storing the head away, he wrote a few words on the file beside. Yi Qingtang beheaded Wu Qi. After he was done writing, he felt that something was wrong and immediately found an assistant to send this file out. If he did not remember wrongly, Yi Qingtang should be a disciple who just entered this month. Such results in just half a month. This disciple is not simple. Apart from providing rewarded missions for disciples, one could find out other disciples' skills according to the completion status of the mission and, thus, discover talented disciples. Informing this news to the outer sect elders was appropriate. On the other hand, Yi Qingtang, who obtained Xianming points, did not know what kind of trouble would come her way after picking up this head. At this instant, Yi Qingtang was already at the door of the physician warden in the outer sect and directly invited him into her dorm. Anything could be put on wait temporarily right now. Wakening her precious wolf was then the most important thing. Chapter 188, Warden 2, This is my wolf. It has been in deep sleep for many days and has not woken up. I'll have to trouble you to take a look at it. Yi Qingtang pointed at the huge wolf on her bed and said to the over 100-year-old senior whom she brought to her room. Warden 2 touched his beard and examined the wolf on the bed with narrowed eyes. Are you certain it did not sustain any external injuries? Warden 2 was responsible for medical aspects in Xianling sect's outer sect. If any outer sect disciple was sick, he was always asked to help. Occasionally, some disciples with combat pets would find him for help as well, and Warden 2 was already used to such things. I've checked many times on the way and did not see any injuries on its body, Yi Qingtang said. Warden 2 nodded thoughtfully and stepped forward to examine the silver wolf's condition, but his expression became a little weird after this check. Little girl, are you really intending to raise this wolf? Warden 2 looked at Yi Qingtang as though he wanted to say something more. Is there any problem? Yi Qingtang was a little puzzled. Warden 2 sighed. There isn't any problem, but, although this wolf of yours looks pretty good, it is at most an ordinary wolf breed and not a spirit animal. Even if you spend all your energy to raise it well, it would probably not be a good combat pet and at most a useless wolf. Although this wolf's fur was very nice, Warden 2 felt that this was an ordinary wolf, and there was nothing special about it no matter how he saw it. The certain wolf with tightly shut eyes suddenly let out a dangerous aura upon hearing the words, useless wolf. However, Yi Qingtang and Warden 2 were in a conversation and did not notice it. Warden 2, I just like it. No matter what it is, I have decided to raise it. Please help me to look at what to do. Yi Qingtang was strangely firm. Useless or not, it was still her wolf, and there was no use even if others said anything. She would raise it. Yu Qingtang did not notice that her firm words caused that silver wolf's dangerous aura to vanish into thin air immediately as it laid even more securely on the bed. Warden Tu sighed. Honestly speaking, he was in disapproval of Xianling sect disciples raising such an ordinary wolf as a combat pet. Combat pets had to be raised carefully for them to turn out well and strong, and most of them were raised from young. However, not only did Yu Qingtang pick up a grown wolf on the road, the wolf was such an ordinary breed. This was really whatever. I will help you to take a good look, but I have to inform you first it might not recover immediately given that it has been unconscious for several days. There's even a chance of it being in this state forever. Then, the warden stretched out his hand helplessly wanting to properly examine the wolf's condition. But just when Warden 2 was about to touch it, its tightly shut eyes suddenly opened. A pair of dark green orbs directly met with Warden Tusk's casual eyes. This look almost scared Warden 2 to death. Why did this wolf suddenly wake up? Yu Qingtang saw that the silver wolf was suddenly awake, and a smile immediately broke out on her face. In her happiness, she instinctively wanted to stretch out her hands to touch the wolf's fur, but she was suddenly met with those dark green orbs. Wolves were extremely defensive animals and very aggressive. While Yu Qingtang hugged this wolf for many days, it had always been sleeping. Right now, she was still a stranger to it. Chapter 189, Yu Qingtang was going to retract her hands but suddenly realized that the wolf only cast her an aloof look before looking away as though it did not plan to resist or attack her. Happiness filled her, and she automatically took the silver wolf's reaction as an acceptance of her. Insatiably, she reached her hands out and rubbed the fluffy wolf fur. Yeah. Comfortable. The silver wolf froze slightly but did not resist at all, and Yu Qingtang caressed it even more brazenly. Warden Tusk's lips twitched. He just said that the wolf would never wake up, but then it woke up. His face was completely gone. Ah. Since it is awake, there should not be any big problems already. Warden 2 was obviously not too attentive to this useless wolf. But Yu Qingtang said very seriously, but it slept for so long, could it have any internal injuries? Warden 2 replied casually. Perhaps. However, there shouldn't be any big problems. If you're worried, you can massage it with spirit energy. Anyways, this will only benefit and not harm it. Although Warden 2 said that, he still felt that Yu Qingtang was crazy. Otherwise, why would she use such precious spirit energy to massage a useless wolf? However, Yu Qingtang remembered his words clearly. Warden 2 saw that there was nothing much and left after saying a few words insincerely. After walking Warden 2 out, Yu Qingtang walked back to her bed and smiled extremely brightly as she looked at the seductive and handsome wolf. A pair of small hands had already unconsciously started directing her inner chi as they touched the wolf's body. A certain wolf's body completely froze, but Yu Qingtang grinned. Little baby. Don't be afraid, I'll give you a good massage. Don't worry, it'll be very gentle. A certain wolf froze for a while and ultimately turned its head around. Let her be then. Once Su Wan returned to the room, she saw Yu Qingtang smiling extremely evilly while touching a silver wolf all over. She was slightly shocked, but she subsequently remembered what Yun Shu told her to pass on to Yu Qingtang. However, at this instant, Su Wan narrowed her eyes into a slit and looked away without telling Yu Qingtang anything as though she did not know anything. She would definitely not let senior brother Yun and Yu Qingtang have anything going on between them. At the same time, the file that the rewards pavilion warden sent to the outer sect elder had already reached the hands of the outer sect elder. Elder Huang was the elder of the outer sect sword faction and was also the one who introduced the sect rules to the disciples. As he read the file that was sent over by the rewards pavilion, his brows were slightly furrowed. An outer sect sword faction disciple standing beside him obediently handed him a cup of tea. Does Elder have any troubling matters? The disciple asked. Elder Huang said, Zhou Xian, have you heard of a disciple called Yi Qingtang in the outer sect? When Zhou Xian suddenly heard the words, Yi Qingtang, his eyes sharpened, but he hid his emotions away skillfully and replied calmly, I did hear of her previously. I think she is a new disciple. Elder Huang nodded and placed the file aside. When this disciple first entered the outer sect, I didn't expect her to have such skills. Zhou Xian was confused but did not dare to probe. Elder Huang did not say anything more and ordered someone to deliver the file back. Then, he spoke to Zhou Xian again. Zhou Xian, how is your brother Zhou Chu's injury? Chapter 190. Thank you for your concern, Elder. He is already fine, Zhou Xian said calmly, but a sharp look flashed across his eyes. Elder Huang did not notice Zhou Xian's expression and merely nodded his head. Although you and Zhou Chu are brothers, your brother's natural talent is far from yours. You need to focus on cultivation instead and not let down this gift of yours. Yes, Zhou Xian replied. There is nothing here already. You can go down first, Elder Huang said and waved a hand. Zhou Xian left and directly headed to Zhou Chu's room. Zhou Chu was already much better now and was chatting with a group of disciples. When he saw Zhou Xian, his face turned white, dispersed the group immediately, and then went up to him carefully. Big brother, you're here. Zhou Xian frowned slightly. He was very unhappy to see Zhou Chu's cowardly behavior but could only bear with it because he was his brother. Who did you say was the person who injured you? Half a month ago, he suddenly heard that his brother, Zhou Chu, was severely beaten up by someone, and he had to lie in bed for a week because of this injury. Although Zhou Chu was not skilled, he was still his brother. Who did not know about his relationship with Zhou Chu in the outer sect? Even though Zhou Chu took advantage of Zhou Xian's influence, no one dared to go against Zhou Xian, and anyone would still give Zhou Chu some face. But this time when Zhou Chu was beaten up, Zhou Xian completely lost face. Zhou Chu felt wronged immediately when he heard the question. Big brother, you must seek revenge for me. It was all done by Yi Qingtang, that little bitch. She is a new disciple but dared to injure me. Shut up. Zhou Xian's face turned cold and glared at Zhou Chu until he kept quiet. That Yi Qingtang is only a new disciple. You have been in the outer sect for many years and barely obtained the 1000th rank, but you can't even beat a newly entered disciple. How do you have the face to say it? Zhou Chu completely lost his face because of Zhou Xian's scolding but did not dare to resist as well, thus, he could only lower his head timidly without making a noise. Zhou Xian looked at his brother's good-for-nothing behavior and was boiling with anger. I'll remember this incident. I went to look for Yi Qingtang when you told me about it the other time. However, she was out on a mission and was not in the sect. Perhaps, she is back now already. You better behave yourself during this period of time and stop going around to embarrass me. Zhou Xian warned Zhou Chu with a glare. Happiness filled his heart when Zhou Chu heard his brother's words. Zhou Xian was way more skilled than him, and if Zhou Xian was willing to take action, Yi Qingtang would definitely not be able to fight back regardless of her abilities. Thank you, big brother. I will definitely listen to you on every matter. Right, big brother, these are the bottles of Shi spirit pills that I got from this batch of new disciples. Zhou Xian looked over and kept them naturally. He asked with a slight frown, why are there only these few bottles this time? Not only did Zhou Xian know about Zhou Chu's arena, he silently consented to it as well. Every time, a portion of the Shi spirit pills that Zhou Chu obtained would be pocketed by Zhou Xian, who was more than happy to do so. Zhou Chu replied, it's all Yi Qingtang, who used some tricks and cheated a few bottles of Shi spirit pills from me. Oh. Zhou Xian raised a brow, and his lips formed a sneer. Yi Qingtang, you're good. You just entered the sect, yet you are so disobedient already. Previously, senior brother Ning from the inner sect already ordered me to take good care of her. Now, not only did she injure you, she even dares to snatch my she spirit pills. I will definitely settle all these new and old scores with her. Chapter 191, Senior Brother Ning also knows Yi Qingtang. Zhou Chu's eyes brightened when he heard the words Senior Brother Ning. This Senior Brother Ning, Ning Luo, was a renowned disciple in the inner sect and doted on by the elder of the inner sect sword faction. Even in the entire Xianling sect, he was a person of rank. He did not expect that Yi Qingtang even offended Ning Luo as well. Zhou Chu really wanted to laugh now. You don't need to ask about other matters. Zhou Xian did not intend to tell Zhou Chu too many things. Zhou Chu did not dare to ask further. While they were brothers, he was actually fearful of Zhou Xian deep down. Zhou Xian left after understanding the situation and planned on how to fulfill Ning Luo's orders and seek revenge for Zhou Chu. He was an old disciple in Xianling sect already and was aware that stirring up troubles the way Zhou Chu had been doing was a foolish method. Even though Zhou Chu was beaten up by Yi Qingtang, the incident was started by him, and Yi Qingtang would not be punished. The only way to deal with Yi Qingtang was to be outside the sect. Zhou Xian narrowed his eyes and immediately headed to find the outer sect warden. On the other side, Yi Qingtang massaged the silver wolf from head to toe and left the room happily under the wolf's stare after cheerfully preparing a large amount of food. With few hundreds of Xianming points on hand, she would be a fool if she did not use them. The key was that Yi Qingtang knew how to make full use of the Xianming points. A few disciples in the same batch as Yi Qingtang were still familiarizing themselves with the outer sect. After half a month, they were all more or less familiar with things around here. Most of them had heard that Yi Qingtang was out on a mission and had mixed emotions upon seeing Yi Qingtang back in the sect again. Yi Qingtang is back already. Do you think she completed the mission? Who knows? But I heard that she rode on the coattails of a few outer sect senior brothers to participate in the mission. Even if it was completed, she was also a freeloader. What can she not do when she is born with a good-looking face? Does she still need to put in any effort herself? Wouldn't things be settled if she just used her face to butter up to the senior brothers? What's the use of being pretty? Do you think they are fools? If she did not help out, who would give her Xianming points? That's logical. However, wasn't Yi Qingtang always like this? She kept cozying up to Yun Shu previously and seduced other outer sect senior brothers now. It's disgusting to even look at it. Does she think she would succeed in the outer sect by relying on these relations? Don't care about her. Anyways, we have all been training hard in these few weeks. Even if she gets those random deals, she will have it good when she has to use her real skills. In another half a month's time, we will have entered the sect for a month already and would need to accept the appointed missions by the sect. Let's see what she is going to do then. A few new disciples were gathered to discuss some things. It was not that they had a deep enmity towards Yi Qingtang but rather because Yi Qingtang was the first to participate in a rewarded mission in their batch. Given her unique case, it was undoubted that it would attract gossips. Some people were always like that. When others did something that they were unable to do, they would always be full of slander and never reflected on themselves. Little did they know that the defamed Yi Qingtang from their mouths was headed towards the largest trading place, the Dragon Court. The Dragon Court was an area drawn out by the outer sect and specially provided to outer sect disciples to make deals. Any disciple could sell valuable items here, and if there was anything that one needed, he or she would only need to exchange the item using the corresponding amount of Xianming points. Here, the most popular items were parts of demonic beasts that the disciples conveniently picked up when on missions. Other than that, there were also some elixirs made by the herbal faction's disciples. Chapter 192. Although it was in the afternoon, the Dragon Court was already bustling with activity. In the Dragon Court that had been independently drawn out, pieces of cloth were laid on the floor, and items to be sold were placed on them, forming a simple stall. Many disciples would come here to earn some Xianming points. After all, Xianming points were precious to anyone. Yi Qingtang entered the dragon court and was attracted by the bustling scene. In her previous life, she visited the dragon court many times as well, but then, she did not have enough Xianming points to use in the dragon court as she was not powerful enough. Even if she occasionally saw things she liked, she could only walk away quietly. Then, the only reason she came to the dragon court was to sell the items she obtained when she was out on missions. And most of the disciples selling items were like her in her previous life. Those like Gu Yanqiu and Qin Huan would never sell items in the dragon court, but they would keep useful goods for themselves. Moreover, they had enough Xianming points for their day-to-day spending and would never release good items for sale. Only disciples who had no way of earning Xianming points would be here to sell goods. Yi Qingtang's eyes swept across her surroundings with emotions different from before. There were still quite a number of treasures in the dragon court. All disciples had different targets on their missions, and, thus, there were a wide variety of things they got. As long as one had good judgment, there was no problem in obtaining good things from here. Yi Qingtang passed by a few stalls and looked at the items displayed at the stalls. Although they were pretty good, they were not what she needed. In the entire dragon court, elixirs refined by the herbal faction disciples were the most popular. In Xianling sect, the number of Xianming points required for elixirs was extremely high. Just using the Shi spirit pills that Yi Qingtang and the rest just received as an example, normal disciples were most probably unable to earn enough Xianming points to exchange for 2 bottles of it. Other elixirs were very pricey as well, and slightly better elixirs were even more expensive. Under such circumstances, the use of the herbal faction disciples was revealed. There were a total of 4 factions in Xianling sect, and the main faction was the sword faction. All the disciples needed to cultivate swordplay, and not everyone could be involved in the other 3 factions. Approval from each faction's elder would be needed for them to step into other factions. Thus, to obtain cheaper elixirs, they could only buy them from the herbal faction disciples. On the other hand, herbal faction disciples were happy to take these elixirs that they cultivated out to sell. After all, they refined elixirs on usual days, and the number of elixirs they accumulated was not a small one. However, these outer sect herbal faction disciples' refinement skills were not high. It was simply impossible for elixirs made by them to have the best effects, and they could only be considered a half-completed product at best. But even such half-completed products were way better than those elixirs circulating outside the sect and thus were well received by other disciples. Yi Qingtang had not walked much in the dragon court and already saw many stalls selling elixirs. Disciples with a herbal faction badge in front of their chests had already set displaying the elixirs and were waiting for business. However, Yi Qingtang was not too interested in these elixirs and walked past those herbal faction disciples' stalls after taking a quick glance. Right after, she saw a lonely figure kneeling at one side as he looked at the pile of junk displayed before him with a distressed look on his face. Chapter 193, that disciple looked to be in his early 20s. He had rather sharp features and was slightly more well-built than normal disciples. But at that instant, he knelt at his stall with a melancholic expression. His large build was curled into a ball as he looked into the passing crowd sadly and helplessly. Yi Qingtang looked at the stall in front of that man, and her lips slightly tugged up after this look. The disciple was not selling any rare items but had some spirit crystals of varied sizes. Spirit crystal was a type of crystal which naturally stored spirit energy. Many veins occasionally produced it, and although not much was produced, it was not considered rare either. A spirit crystal was different from a spirit stone. The spirit energy in spirit stones could be absorbed and converted by humans while the spirit energy in spirit crystals was completely combined with the crystal, and there was no way one could extract it for cultivation. Furthermore, because the spirit crystal contains spirit energy, there were many cotton fiber-looking crystalline shapes in the crystal body, which greatly affected the lustrousness and appearance of the spirit crystal. As a result, almost no one was interested in them. Spirit crystals were unable to replace the effects of spirit stones, and their appearances were even more incomparable. It could be said that spirit crystals had a worthless existence. This type of item should not appear in the sect since, after all, sect disciples were from renowned families and had extensive knowledge. Such useless items like spirit crystals simply would not attract the attention of any disciple, and there were some disciples who even laughed when they saw the spirit crystals. Which fool actually took this thing out? It would be weird if they could be sold. Regardless of the number of people walking past him, none of them stopped to look at his items. When compared to the stalls selling elixirs beside him, his area was extremely empty. An herbal faction disciple who just sold 2 bottles of elixirs smiled as he looked at the Xianming points on his bracelet. He turned around and spoke to a despondent-looking disciple. Tong Hua, I told you long ago that no one wants these spirit crystals. Instead of sitting here foolishly, why not take on some missions to earn some Xianming points? After all, you're a fist faction disciple and selling spirit crystals is still too. The herbal faction disciple appeared to be well-meaning, but the sarcasm in his eyes revealed his real intentions. Tong Hua looked at him and gave a bitter laugh without saying anything. This herbal faction disciple and he entered the outer sect at the same time. He had a good physique, and his natural endowments were considered not bad in his batch. Rather, it was that herbal faction disciple who had an average natural endowment. However, it was different years later. Tong Hua did not put that herbal faction disciple's mockery to heart and only looked after his stall silently, waiting for that slim chance. This scene fell into Yi Qingtang's eyes, and the herbal faction disciple's mockery still lingered around her ears. The corner of her lips tugged upwards slightly as she walked towards Tong Hua's stall. How do you sell this spirit crystal? A clear female voice suddenly traveled into his ears, and the depressed Tong Hua looked up in surprise, only to be completely taken aback there and then. Against the sunlight, the young girl was so beautiful as though she was not a mortal on earth, while her smile seemed to be able to intoxicate someone. Chapter 194. Tong Hua was rather besotted from looking for a moment, and only after that girl waved her hands smilingly in front of his eyes did he finally return to his senses. He instinctively shivered as a blush crept onto his chiseled face. How could there be such a good-looking junior sister? Do you want to buy spirit crystals? Tong Hua had a rigid nature, and because he was tall and well-built on top of the fact that his strong facial features made him look fierce, there were rarely any female disciples who interacted with him. Now that he met such a pretty junior sister, he could not help but be tongue-tied. The herbal faction disciple nearby saw that shockingly beautiful girl as well, and his eyes glowed. Before waiting for Tong Hua to say anything, he immediately opened his mouth. This junior sister, spirit crystals are not spirit stones. Even if you buy it back, there will be no use for it. Don't get cheated, he said without caring that Tong Hua was right there. Yi Qingtang looked at the both of them with a smile and understood more or less. This senior brother, Tong Hua, had such a poor business partly due to the help from this herbal faction disciple, didn't he? Tong Hua's expression turned a little ugly after the herbal faction disciple said those words in his face. He was about to say something, but the herbal faction disciple spoke before him again. Tong Hua, this little junior sister seems to be quite young. You must not cheat her because of her young age. Then, Tong Hua was really furious that his face flushed. When had he cheated anyone? He could not even say anything and was already called a cheater by this herbal faction disciple. He was enraged. The herbal faction disciple looked at Tong Hua's red face in delight and was not at all bothered. Disciples were not allowed to fight amongst themselves in the sect, and he was certain that Tong Hua would definitely not act recklessly. Moreover, he was sure from the start that while Tong Hua appeared rather fierce on the outside, he was a very honest man. The herbal faction disciples' words were to, firstly, embarrass Tong Hua and, secondly, establish some relations with this beautiful junior sister. However, senior brother Tong, is it? You haven't said how you're going to sell these spirit crystals, Yi Qingtang said to Tong Hua with a flower-like smile without bothering with the herbal faction's provocation. The fury in Tong Hua was extinguished by that crisp-sounding, senior brother Tong. He, who was not good at conversing with people of the opposite sex, looked at Yi Qingtang before him and panicked a little. This spirit crystal is sold at 1 Xianming point for 1 crystal. If you like them, 2 Xianming points for 3 crystals is fine as well. Tong Hua said this one sentence with many stumbles, and his voice became softer as he spoke on. 1 Xianming point was really a low price. While this spirit crystal was useless, it was worth more than this price. According to normal calculations, it should be 2 to 3 Xianming points for 1 crystal no matter what. The price that Tong Hua set surprised Yi Qingtang slightly. The herbal faction disciple saw that Yi Qingtang did not reply immediately and mocked. Tong Hua, this spirit crystal is simply a useless piece of rubbish. Isn't it too big of a rip-off to sell it for 1 Xianming point? Tong Hua hurriedly waved his hands as though Tong Hua was afraid that Yi Qingtang believed the other party's words and misunderstood him. I am not ripping off from her. However, Yi Qingtang replied with a grin. How many spirit crystals does senior brother Tong have? Tong Hua was a little confused as to what this junior sister asked it for, but still said honestly, about 70 to 80 plus. Chapter 195, Yi Qingtang calculated mentally and immediately smiled. I want all of them. Right after Yi Qingtang spoke, Tong Hua was dumbfounded, and even the herbal faction disciple who had been mocking Tong Hua felt his jaw drop from the shock. She wants all 70 to 80 of them? Is this little junior sister crazy? Tong Hua was stunned for quite a while and suspected whether he heard wrongly. He could not help but confirm again. Little junior sister, how many did you say you wanted? Yi Qingtang's smile remained as she said, all. Tong Hua was really shocked. He got these spirit crystals half a year ago, and after selling for a whole 6 months, he only sold 2 or 3 pieces. Never would he dream that someone would actually buy all of his spirit crystals at one go, and it was someone who seemed to be a newly entered disciple. Are you sure? But these spirit crystals really do not have many uses. Tong Hua hoped to quickly get rid of these hot potatoes, but when he saw this pretty junior sister bravely saying that she wanted to buy all the spirit crystals, Tong Hua did not dare to sell them instead. He was afraid he would really rip off this little junior sister. If you really like it, I'll just gift you 2 of them then. It is better if you don't buy them, Tong Hua said as he scratched his head. Yi Qingtang was tickled by Tong Hua's frank response. This senior brother was really an honest man. Senior brother, I am not joking with you. I want all of the spirit crystals. Let's just go with the price you said just now, 1 Xianming point for 2 crystals, Yi Qingtang said generously. From aside, the expression which the herbal faction disciple used to look at Yi Qingtang was as though he was looking at a lunatic. Why was it that this junior sister was born with such a pretty face but did not have any brains? Even if the price was 1 Xianming point for 2 spirit crystals, she would still need 30 to 40 Xianming points, and spending this amount on 2 bottles of Shi spirit pills was more worth it. Tong Hua did not know what to do with Yi Qingtang's stubbornness and was troubled over it, but suddenly saw a familiar person walking in his direction. He hurriedly stood up and shouted, Junior brother Qin. Here. Qin Huan, who was strolling leisurely in the dragon court, suddenly heard a shout, and when he looked over, he saw a tall and muscular Tong Hua waving at him frantically. Senior brother Tong. What happened to you? Qin Huan walked over brightly and could not help but laugh when he took a look at Tong Hua's stall. Senior brother Qin, you haven't sold this batch of spirit crystals which you got cheated to accept that time? I think it is better to find a fool quickly and sell them off cheaply. Junior brother Qin, stop talking already. Help me here. This person wants to buy all of my spirit crystals at one go. Hurry. Persuade her not to do it. Tong Hua knew that he was not good at talking to people of the opposite sex, so he might as well pull Qin Huan, who was good at flirting with girls, to help him out. Upon hearing Tong Hua, Qin Huan could not help but laugh as he turned to look at the person who Tong Hua spoke about. There is really a fool who wants to buy these rotten. The moment Qin Huan turned around, he was met with a pair of smiling eyes, and his words were immediately stuck in his throat before he finished his sentence. Yi Qingtang folded her arms and looked at Qin Huan with a beam as a dangerous glint emerged in her eyes. She said casually, "So I'm actually a fool in senior brother Qin's eyes." Chapter 196, Qin Huan's lips twitched as he looked at Yi Qingtang, and his head was about to explode. Shit! Tong Hua, this scoundrel screwed him. So it's junior sister Yi. Ha, ha. What a coincidence, Qin Huan said as he broke out in a cold sweat. How he wished he could hang Tong Hua, who called him over, on a tree and hammer him. Yi Qingtang raised a brow slightly and swept a meaningful look at Qin Huan. Qin Huan only felt a gush of cold air behind his back, and the smile on his face broke into pieces. Tong Hua looked strangely at the frozen Qin Huan and had not sensed that Qin Huan became strange suddenly as he asked curiously. Junior brother Qin, do you know this little junior sister? Qin Huan put on a smile that was uglier than a cry and nodded tragically. She is junior sister Yi. Why would I not know her? Was it too late for him to leave now? Tong Hua nodded slowly and did not notice Qin Huan's expression, which read, I want to die right now, and said uprightly, that's good then. Qin Huan, help me persuade this junior sister. There is not much use if she buys these spirit crystals back. If she likes them, it's fine for me to gift some to her. These Xianming points cannot be anyhow spent, especially new disciples. Tong Hua persuaded earnestly. If not for the fact that Qin Huan could not defeat Tong Hua, he really wanted to box this fool to death. New disciples' Xianming points could not be anyhow spent. That applied to others but not Yi Qingtang, who was a tycoon. He personally witnessed Yi Qingtang cheerfully taking the head of a villain on the assassination roll to claim her reward after receiving over 60 Xianming points from the giant lizard mission. Qin Huan really wanted to tell Tong Hua that he was worried for the wrong person and that the number of Xianming points in Yi Qingtang's hands was more than both of theirs added together. However, a wise man would submit to the circumstances. Qin Huan simply did not bother about Tong Hua's persuasion and looked straight at Yi Qingtang. Junior sister Yi likes this spirit crystal. You should have said earlier. I have known senior brother Tong for a long time, and I can let him sell them at a cheaper price. I see that there's quite a number of spirit crystals, how about I help you to carry them back? Qin Huan smiled in an extremely suck-up manner. After personally witnessing Yi Qingtang's powers, he did not dare to offend such a fierce junior sister. Furthermore, Yi Qingtang's fire-resistant soft armor even saved his life. Who knew how many more treasures this little junior sister had? He really had to sweet-talk her and offer his assistance the best he could. Tong Hua was dumbfounded. He clearly got Qin Huan over to persuade Yi Qingtang. Why did he suddenly betray him? Yi Qingtang chuckled at the suck-up Qin Huan and said, Senior brother Qin's price is very low already, and it doesn't need to be lowered further. However, if senior brother Qin is free, I can approve your request to help me move my things. Tong Hua already said previously that if Yi Qingtang wanted, he could sell 2 spirit crystals at 1 Xianming point. This price was already shockingly low, and Yi Qingtang was not the type to squeeze money out of others. No matter what, she would not go overboard. No problem. Leave it to me. Qin Huan did not care that his manly image was broken at that very point. His suck-up behavior completely confused Tong Hua. Senior brother Tong, pack the spirit crystals. I'll carry them back for junior sister Yi, Qin Huan said. Tong Hua was really on the verge of tears. Why did the help that he found turn to help Yi Qingtang in urging him instead? Chapter 197, with the betrayal of his ally, Tong Hua could only pack the spirit crystals with a sad face. Just by seeing his expression, those who did not know would think that he was robbed. Yi Qingtang nimbly transferred the corresponding 30+ Xianming points to Tong Hua. While Tong Hua got rid of these burning potatoes, he felt extremely guilty towards Yi Qingtang, who got ripped off. Junior Sister Yi, if there's anything you need help with in the future, just go ahead and ask me. Thank you so much, for today, Tong Hua said to Yi Qingtang earnestly. Yi Qingtang kept feeling as though she was taken advantage of, but the person who was taken advantage of was clearly Tong Hua. If one was overly honest and good-natured, others would feel quite helpless as well. Tong Hua stammered a while more to Yi Qingtang and then finally packed up his items and returned to the fist faction for practice. On the other hand, Qin Huan, who was called over halfway, had no choice but to pay a price for his big mouth. Carrying 70 to 80+ spirit crystals, Qin Huan grinned at Yi Qingtang and said, Junior Sister Yi, are you returning now? Yi Qingtang turned around and walked out of the dragon court without forgetting to signal Qin Huan behind her with a finger. Qin Huan followed up quickly. Junior Sister Yi, what are you buying so many spirit crystals for? Qin Huan asked carefully, deeply afraid that what he said previously had offended Yi Qingtang. Gu Yanqiu was still waiting for Yi Qingtang to form a team with them to go on missions, and if Yi Qingtang complained to Gu Yanqiu, Qin Huan predicted that Gu Yanqiu would kick him out of the team in order to protect Yi Qingtang. Yi Qingtang replied, obviously because there's a use. Qin Huan remained silent. You have many Xianming points, so you can spend lavishly. Yi Qingtang thought of something and asked, Senior brother Qin, do you know who else has spirit crystals? Qin Huan was dumbfounded. She bought so many already, but it still was not enough. She still wants to buy more spirit crystals. Is she crazy? However, he was not bold enough to say this in Yi Qingtang's face. I'm afraid, there isn't really anyone who has them. Spirit crystals are rare and not easy to find usually. Although veins produce them, it is extremely rare. Furthermore, no one required them, and, thus, this item was even rarer. Those that Tong Hua had were ones that he was being cheated to accept. Otherwise, no one would have so many spirit crystals for no reason. One must know that it was already amazing when a vein produced at most 1 or 2 crystals. Qin Huan mumbled. Cheated? Yi Qingtang stopped in her tracks. She knew how useless spirit crystals were to humans as well and thus was extremely happy when she saw them in Tong Hua's hands. Currently, no one knew the importance of spirit crystals yet, but in a few months later, a divine weapon would appear on Earth. That divine weapon was owned by a mighty figure, and its appearance caused a commotion. As rumors of the divine weapon's sharpness circulated, its origins were gradually dug out by people. That was a weapon with spirit crystals embedded in it and was forged by a blacksmith who hid away from the world for many years. The spirit energy in spirit crystals could not be absorbed by people, thus, humans saw them as useless items. However, that blacksmith discovered another use for the spirit crystals, to forge divine weapons. With the craft of a blacksmith, embedding spirit crystals into a weapon could increase the weapon's strength by a large extent. Once this news was spread, it could be said that the whole world was shaken as suddenly, spirit crystals, which no one asked about before, suddenly became a popular treasure. All family clans and powerful groups went to great lengths to search for spirit crystals and invited famous blacksmiths to forge the weapons. Chapter 198. And because of this, the blacksmith's reputation skyrocketed, and weapons forged with spirit crystals were crowned as spirit weapons. Yi Qingtang lost her spirit root in her previous life and once thought of using the power of a spirit weapon to counter enemies. Thus, she took a blacksmith as a teacher that time as well, where she hid from people and learned the craft at the same time. She was very clear that the current weapons were simply not on the same level as the future spirit weapons. If she could collect more spirit crystals before that mighty figure took out the first spirit weapon, it would definitely be of great help to her in the future. One must know that once spirit weapons exploded in popularity, all the spirit crystals on Earth were almost snatched away immediately by all the forces, and every crystal in the future could be sold at sky-high prices. Yi Qingtang did not expect that she would see so many spirit crystals in the Dragon Court, and since she saw them, she would definitely not pass them by and got them all decisively. However, Yi Qingtang was rather curious as to why Tong Hua had so many spirit crystals. When she mentioned this, Qin Huan could not help but tug his lips upwards. Isn't it all because that nincompoop is foolish? Half a year ago, he went out on a rewarded mission with a few senior brothers in the outer sect. Don't look at how upright senior brother Tong is, he could even crumble a huge boulder into pieces if he threw out a punch. He put in a lot of effort in missions, and it could be said that he was highly connected to the completion of missions. Logically, he would be distributed the most basic amount of Xianming points. However, those disciples on the mission with him took advantage of his good nature. All of them said they badly needed Xianming points and found an excuse to swallow the share that senior brother Tong should have. They even made it sound nice that they were not taking his share for nothing and auctioned these spirit crystals for him in an auction house near their mission location as a compensation. Qin Huan became increasingly angry as he spoke. He had known Tong Hua for a long time already, and when he knew about this incident that time, he almost got into a fight with those bastards to help Tong Hua. Yi Qingtang could not believe what she heard. She did feel that Tong Hua was very honest, but this was too innocent. Suddenly, Yi Qingtang felt that senior brother Yun's good man image was not that hard to accept after comparing him to Tong Hua. If you really want spirit crystals, you can take a look at the auction houses nearby, Qin Huan said casually, though he did not know what Yi Qingtang wanted spirit crystals for. Yi Qingtang had a plan as well and sympathized with the overly honest Tong Hua a little. Qin Huan followed Yi Qingtang and brought the bag of spirit crystals back to her room. Just when they returned to the room, they saw Su Wan, who was about to leave the room. Su Wan's expression changed a little when she saw Yi Qingtang, but when she saw Qin Huan behind her, she could not help but narrow her eyes, though she left without saying anything. Where do I place this? Qin Huan asked while carrying the spirit crystals when he entered the room. But when he said this, he suddenly realized that he seemed to be glared at by a pair of sharp eyes. His eyes followed the direction of that feeling and suddenly saw. That silver wolf which was lying on Yi Qingtang's bed was staring at him with an extremely dangerous expression. Qin Huan had goosebumps all over from the silver wolf's glare, and he did not know why, but he felt that if he stayed any longer, something ominous would happen. Right after he placed down the bag, he quickly found an excuse and escaped. Chapter 199-1, Qin Huan ran so quickly as though someone was after his life. Yi Qingtang could not help but find that scene funny. She thought that Qin Huan was worried that she would settle scores with him and did not notice that the murderous expression in the silver wolf's eyes faded after Qin Huan's departure. Heh, little baby. I got many good things today. Yi Qingtang went up to the silver wolf and grinned at it as when she saw that the room was empty. The silver wolf quietly looked at Yi Qingtang's salivating expression with a very complicated expression. I have not given you a massage today. Now is just nice. Yi Qingtang did not care whether her silver wolf could understand or not as she rolled up her sleeves and aimed at its furry body with her fingers. Once the silver wolf heard the word massage, its body froze, and before it could react, a pair of dishonest hands stroked its body familiarly. As though she felt the wolf's frozen body, Yi Qingtang comforted it gently. Don't worry, baby. I will be very gentle. The silver wolf looked at the besotted Yi Qingtang speechlessly and laid down with a resigned expression, letting her trample it as she wished. Yi Qingtang was caressing the wolf delightedly but did not know that Su Wan, who went out previously, went to look for Yun Shu. She exaggeratedly told that Yi Qingtang and Qin Huan entered and left the room together, and that Yi Qingtang was too busy getting close with other senior brothers and probably had no time to meet Yun Shu. Yun Shu did not say anything though. Because Yi Qingtang had the silver wolf, she hurriedly returned to massage the wolf after cultivation every day and did not have many interactions with Yun Shu. Days passed. In the blink of an eye, it had been a month since the new disciples entered the sect. In this 1 month, all the new disciples familiarized themselves with everything in Xianling sect's outer sect and were on the right track in their cultivation. And once this first month was over, the new disciples were to welcome a new challenge. Sect-appointed missions. This was a mission that every sect disciple had to complete, and the contents of the mission were appointed by the outer sect warden. This day, all the new disciples were summoned. The teaching warden stood in front of them with many files in his hand. Today, the sect will appoint a mission to every one of you. Regardless of a solo or a team mission with other disciples, all of you must place the sect's glory as the main priority when you are out handling matters. If you do anything which damages the sect's reputation, you will be punished according to the sect rules, said the teaching warden coldly. Everyone nodded. Then, the warden handed down the missions. While these disciples were to begin on sect missions, they did not have enough experience after all. Apart from Yi Qingtang, who completed a rewarded mission half a month ago, most had not come into contact with such missions. Thus, most of the missions were still relatively easy. Yun Shu only exchanged a few words with Yi Qingtang in the past few weeks and finally met her then. How are you recently, junior sister Yi? Yun Shu asked with a smile. Yi Qingtang had a handsome wolf to accompany her these few days, and her days were spent comfortably at ease. The fatigue from a whole day of cultivation would instantly vanish every time she stroked the wolf in the name of massaging it. Everything is good. I wonder what senior brother Yun thinks of this appointed mission. Yi Qingtang asked smilingly. Although she was not overly close to Yun Shu these days, she was always paying attention to any news regarding Yun Shu. She did not forget her plan to investigate the truth behind Yun Shu's fall in the past life. Chapter 199-2. Sect Mission 2. I did ask around about it previously. Yun Shu obviously paid attention to the sect mission matters previously. A month after the new disciples entered the sect, they would have to take on their first sect mission. These kind of missions for the new disciple were relatively easy and were basically completed in groups. Just as Yun Shu and Yi Qingtang were talking, Su Wan, who was standing a few steps away from Yun Shu, had a dark expression. She glared right at the both of them, and a deathly cold air seemed to be hidden in her seemingly gentle eyes. Su Wan originally wanted to use the opportunity to become closer to Yun Shu, but she did not expect that before she walked to Yun Shu's side, Yi Qingtang would already be talking to Yun Shu. Looking at their intimate behavior, Su Wan's heart was as though it was chopped into pieces by a knife. Senior brother Yun's eyes were glued on Yi Qingtang. Su Wan was clearly standing behind senior brother Yun, but he did not even realize she was here. On what basis? Su Wan quietly clenched her fist tightly and looked at Yi Qingtang's exquisite side profile, wishing that she could slash Yi Qingtang's face with a knife. She clearly tried all sorts of means for Yun Shu and Yi Qingtang to not interact with each other in this period of time. She clearly told Yun Shu many bad things about Yi Qingtang, and she never even mentioned to Yi Qingtang that Yun Shu wanted her to find him. But why was Yun Shu acting as if nothing happened? Hatred and resentment filled Su Wan's eyes. And it was at this instant when the teaching warden assigned the missions to the disciples. This is your first time accepting a sect mission. To ensure that you all can complete it successfully, I will appoint the more skilled people as the mission's team leader. Then, the warden looked at the files in his hands and called out a few names. Yun Shu and Lu Xiuwen were the most skilled amongst the new disciples and were obviously in the list of names called out. Apart from the two of them, the warden called out another 4 people and handed down the missions that they had to take on. After looking at the mission, these disciples could freely choose the other members to embark on the mission with. These 6 people were the most skilled amongst their batch of new disciples, and the difference between the disciples' skills could be seen from here. The 6 people who were called out took a step forward and stood within everyone's line of sight. Junior sister Su, senior brother Yun is also a leader for a mission. I think he will definitely choose you. Lu Yu, who was standing beside Su Wan, looked at the glorious Yun Shu as she beamed at Su Wan, who wore a gloomy expression. Su Wan returned to her senses and quickly hid away the resentment in her eyes as she smiled gently. Who knows who senior brother Yun will choose? Just now, junior sister Yi was talking to senior brother Yun, and perhaps she had already told him about this. After hearing, Lu Yu looked at Yi Qingtang with a face of disdain. What a vixen! I heard that after she returned from the rewarded mission the other time, she did not interact much with senior brother Yun. Yet now, she is acting chummy with him. Isn't it all because she knows that she must take on a sect mission already and wants to cozy up to senior brother Yun? Junior sister Su, you have been on such good terms with senior brother Yun recently, and Yi Qingtang cannot compete against this. There are so many rumors in the outer sect about you and senior brother Yun now. I can see that senior brother Yun treats you pretty well, and he will definitely not be bewitched by that vixen Yi Qingtang. Su Wan could not help but smile shyly when she heard that. Indeed, many disciples were talking about the relationship between her and Yun Shu in this half a month. Chapter 199-3. Sect Mission 3. Both Su Wan and Yi Qingtang were close to Yun Shu, but there was a huge difference between them. While Su Wan was also a new disciple, she was far above Yi Qingtang, regardless of her family background or the grade of her spirit root. Although Yi Qingtang was superior in terms of appearance, the feeling that they gave people were completely different. In the eyes of others, there was nothing good about Yi Qingtang other than her face, and they felt that her relationship with Yun Shu was all Yi Qingtang's one-sided wishful thinking. Rather, they felt that Su Wan was more compatible with Yun Shu. Lu Yu uttered words of support for Su Wan as she made a plan for herself as well. Yun Shu's skills were good, and if she could work on a mission together with Yun Shu using Su Wan's relationship with him, Lu Yu believed that her score in the mission would be higher. Senior sister Lu, these are merely our guesses. It is still up to senior brother Yun to choose, Su Wan said gently. According to the rules, Yun Shu and the others were to pick their team members in order of the rank of their spirit roots. Brother Yun, which candidate do you have in mind this time? Lu Xiuan asked Yun Shu while raising a brow. Yun Shu gave a faint smile. It is all our first time participating in a sect mission. I am not very certain as well. Lu Xiuan laughed. Brother Yun, you're too humble. Didn't you take extra care of junior sister Yi previously? Though I rarely see you and junior sister Yi interacting after entering the sect. Not many people knew that Yi Qingtang took on a rewarded mission. Among the new disciples, only Su Wan and Yun Shu knew, but they did not tell anyone else about it. Furthermore, the new disciples were too busy familiarizing themselves with matters in the outer sect over the past half a month and never noticed Yi Qingtang's disappearance. The only thing that everyone knew was that Yun Shu did not really interact with Yi Qingtang in this month and that the person who was always by his side was Su Wan instead. Thus, many snickered that Yi Qingtang did not manage to cozy up to Yun Shu. Yun Shu obviously understood the meaning behind Lu Ziyuan's words and frowned slightly. You can start selecting your team members already, the warden said. Yun Shu looked away and towards the new disciples. If there were no accidents, senior and junior brothers with yellow spirit roots would be the first to be selected. Yun Shu was still thinking of who to pick but saw Su Wan looking at him expectantly. As he thought of how Su Wan cared for him in these few days, Yun Shu, who had a kind heart, could not bear to reject her. Junior sister Su. Yun Shu slowly announced the name of his first teammate. As Yun Shu spoke, Su Wan could not help but smile. Under everyone's gaze, she slowly walked up while looking at Yi Qingtang from the corner of her eye with a sarcastic expression. Yi Qingtang, no matter how good you are, the inferiority of your spirit root will not be changed. Su Wan went forward and stood behind Yun Shu, and this started discussions among many people. Everyone knew that Yun Shu only had many interactions with Yi Qingtang and Su Wan in the outer sect. Moreover, many noticed Su Wan's affection for Yun Shu. Now that Yun Shu chose Su Wan as his team member, wouldn't Yi Qingtang be abandoned then? In a moment, everyone looked at the leisurely Yi Qingtang with a nosy expression. If a useless red spirit root did not have Yun Shu's protection, which group would want her? Yi Qingtang stood calmly and did not take any of those bad-meaning gazes around her to heart. This type of mission for new disciples was of no difficulty to her regardless of which group she joined and, thus, she saw no point in worrying. Chapter 200. I did ask around about it previously. Yun Shu obviously paid attention to the sect mission matters previously. A month after the new disciples entered the sect, they would have to take on their first sect mission. These kind of missions for the new disciple were relatively easy and were basically completed in groups. Just as Yun Shu and Yi Qingtang were talking, Su Wan, who was standing a few steps away from Yun Shu, had a dark expression. She glared right at the both of them, and a deathly cold air seemed to be hidden in her seemingly gentle eyes. Su Wan originally wanted to use the opportunity to become closer to Yun Shu, but she did not expect that before she walked to Yun Shu's side, Yi Qingtang would already be talking to Yun Shu. Looking at their intimate behavior, Su Wan's heart was as though it was chopped into pieces by a knife. Senior brother Yun's eyes were glued on Yi Qingtang. Su Wan was clearly standing behind senior brother Yun, but he did not even realize she was here. On what basis? Su Wan quietly clenched her fist tightly and looked at Yi Qingtang's exquisite side profile, wishing that she could slash Yi Qingtang's face with a knife. She clearly tried all sorts of means for Yun Shu and Yi Qingtang to not interact with each other in this period of time. She clearly told Yun Shu many bad things about Yi Qingtang, and she never even mentioned to Yi Qingtang that Yun Shu wanted her to find him. But why was Yun Shu acting as if nothing happened? Hatred and resentment filled Su Wan's eyes. And it was at this instant when the teaching warden assigned the missions to the disciples. This is your first time accepting a sect mission. To ensure that you all can complete it successfully, I will appoint the more skilled people as the mission's team leader. Then, the warden looked at the files in his hands and called out a few names. Yun Shu and Lu Xiuwen were the most skilled amongst the new disciples and were obviously in the list of names called out. Apart from the two of them, the warden called out another 4 people and handed down the missions that they had to take on. After looking at the mission, these disciples could freely choose the other members to embark on the mission with. These 6 people were the most skilled amongst their batch of new disciples, and the difference between the disciples' skills could be seen from here. The 6 people who were called out took a step forward and stood within everyone's line of sight. Junior sister Su, senior brother Yun is also a leader for a mission. I think he will definitely choose you. Lu Yu, who was standing beside Su Wan, looked at the glorious Yun Shu as she beamed at Su Wan, who wore a gloomy expression. Su Wan returned to her senses and quickly hid away the resentment in her eyes as she smiled gently. Who knows who senior brother Yun will choose? Just now, junior sister Yi was talking to senior brother Yun, and perhaps she had already told him about this. After hearing, Lu Yu looked at Yi Qingtang with a face of disdain. What a vixen! I heard that after she returned from the rewarded mission the other time, she did not interact much with senior brother Yun. Yet now, she is acting chummy with him. Isn't it all because she knows that she must take on a sect mission already and wants to cozy up to senior brother Yun? Junior sister Su, you have been on such good terms with senior brother Yun recently, and Yi Qingtang cannot compete against this. There are so many rumors in the outer sect about you and senior brother Yun now. I can see that senior brother Yun treats you pretty well, and he will definitely not be bewitched by that vixen Yi Qingtang. Su Wan could not help but smile shyly when she heard that. Indeed, many disciples were talking about the relationship between her and Yun Shu in this half a month. Chapter 201. Both Su Wan and Yi Qingtang were close to Yun Shu, but there was a huge difference between them. While Su Wan was also a new disciple, she was far above Yi Qingtang, regardless of her family background or the grade of her spirit root. Although Yi Qingtang was superior in terms of appearance, the feeling that they gave people were completely different. In the eyes of others, there was nothing good about Yi Qingtang other than her face, and they felt that her relationship with Yun Shu was all Yi Qingtang's one-sided wishful thinking. Rather, they felt that Su Wan was more compatible with Yun Shu. Lu Yu uttered words of support for Su Wan as she made a plan for herself as well. Yun Shu's skills were good, and if she could work on a mission together with Yun Shu using Su Wan's relationship with him, Lu Yu believed that her score in the mission would be higher. Senior Sister Lu, these are merely our guesses. It is still up to Senior Brother Yun to choose, Su Wan said gently. According to the rules, Yun Shu and the others were to pick their team members in order of the rank of their spirit roots. Brother Yun, which candidate do you have in mind this time? Lu Xiuan asked Yun Shu while raising a brow. Yun Shu gave a faint smile. It is all our first time participating in a sect mission. I am not very certain as well. Lu Xiuan laughed. Brother Yun, you're too humble. Didn't you take extra care of Junior Sister Yi previously? Though I rarely see you and Junior Sister Yi interacting after entering the sect. Not many people knew that Yi Qingtang took on a rewarded mission. Among the new disciples, only Su Wan and Yun Shu knew, but they did not tell anyone else about it. Furthermore, the new disciples were too busy familiarizing themselves with matters in the outer sect over the past half a month and never noticed Yi Qingtang's disappearance. The only thing that everyone knew was that Yun Shu did not really interact with Yi Qingtang in this month and that the person who was always by his side was Su Wan instead. Thus, many snickered that Yi Qingtang did not manage to cozy up to Yun Shu. Yun Shu obviously understood the meaning behind Lu Ziyuan's words and frowned slightly. You can start selecting your team members already, the warden said. Yun Shu looked away and towards the new disciples. If there were no accidents, senior and junior brothers with yellow spirit roots would be the first to be selected. Yun Shu was still thinking of who to pick but saw Su Wan looking at him expectantly. As he thought of how Su Wan cared for him in these few days, Yun Shu, who had a kind heart, could not bear to reject her. Junior Sister Su. Yun Shu slowly announced the name of his first teammate. As Yun Shu spoke, Su Wan could not help but smile. Under everyone's gaze, she slowly walked up while looking at Yi Qingtang from the corner of her eye with a sarcastic expression. Yi Qingtang, no matter how good you are, the inferiority of your spirit root will not be changed. Su Wan went forward and stood behind Yun Shu, and this started discussions among many people. Everyone knew that Yun Shu only had many interactions with Yi Qingtang and Su Wan in the outer sect. Moreover, many noticed Su Wan's affection for Yun Shu. Now that Yun Shu chose Su Wan as his team member, wouldn't Yi Qingtang be abandoned then? In a moment, everyone looked at the leisurely Yi Qingtang with a nosy expression. If a useless red spirit root did not have Yun Shu's protection, which group would want her? Yi Qingtang stood calmly and did not take any of those bad-meaning gazes around her to heart. This type of mission for new disciples was of no difficulty to her regardless of which group she joined and, thus, she saw no point in worrying. Chapter 202. As the disciples were being called up one by one, the teammates behind Yun Shu and the others were gradually fixed. At last, only Yi Qingtang was left. Yun Shu also specifically left a spot where he planned to invite Yi Qingtang to join at the end. However, just when Yun Shu was about to open his mouth, the warden suddenly looked at Yi Qingtang and said, Yi Qingtang, there are other arrangements for your sect mission. The warden's words instantly caused a commotion. Yun Shu, who was about to say something, was stunned as well while Su Wan could not help but break out into an arrogant smile. She could see that Yun Shu wanted to invite Yi Qingtang, but the warden did not even plan to place Yi Qingtang in this mission. Thinking about it, it was true as well. With such an inferior spirit root, which team would she not be a burden in? Yi Qingtang raised a brow slightly. She did not expect that there would be such a thing. Just as everyone was curious as to what other arrangements Yi Qingtang had, the warden waved a hand at an area not far away. Then, a tall and good-looking young disciple slowly walked out and appeared in front of everyone. Once everyone saw that disciple's face, they were all astonished. His face actually looked a little similar to Zhou Chu, the person who set up an arena to cheat them. Yi Qingtang, you will do your sect mission with Zhou Xian over here. Zhou Xian will personally tell you about the mission contents later, the warden said without expression. Zhou Xian walked forward, and his lips formed into a smile as he looked at the beautiful girl before him. Junior Sister Yi, it's our first meeting. Please take care of me. Zhou Xian's appearance left many new disciples dumbfounded. What is going on? Yi Qingtang's first sect mission is actually with an old disciple. It should be known that the first sect mission was relatively easier, but missions that Zhou Xian, an old disciple, took on had many hidden dangers. Surprise flashed across Su Wan's eyes as well, but once she saw Zhou Xian's face, an evil thought appeared in her mind. Zhou Xian. Zhou Chu. These two people's faces were so similar, could it be that? The surprise in her eyes instantly turned into a gloat. Everyone still remembered how Yi Qingtang beat Zhou Chu up on the arena the other time. Yi Qingtang raised her brows slightly as she looked at Zhou Xian before her. She sneered in her heart. Isn't this Zhou Xian the older brother of Zhou Chu? She was initially curious as to why her mission was suddenly changed but did not think that someone was actually behind all of this. Looking at the devious-looking Zhou Xian, Yi Qingtang already guessed that Zhou Xian most likely bribed the warden in secret, which caused things to become the way they were right now. Senior brother Zhou, that's too polite of you, Yi Qingtang said calmly with a faint smile. Zhou Xian sized up Yi Qingtang with a scoff in his heart. Exactly like what Yi Qingtang guessed, he already knew long ago that the new disciples would take on sect missions after entering the sect for a month. Yi Qingtang's teaching warden once taught Zhou Xian as well, and, thus, Zhou Xian used this opportunity to change Yi Qingtang's mission. Disciples were forbidden from fighting amongst themselves in the sect. But if they left the sect, things would be different. If there were some injuries sustained in the mission, would they not be considered natural? You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.